Right, first item. First item is the minutes for the June 26th meeting, and then we'll also approve the June 27th board session. So when you have a chance, take a motion to approve those minutes on June 26th.
Motion to approve, Chairman.
I have a motion to approve.
Second.
I have a second. Is there any discussion on those minutes? Seeing none. Commissioner Strickland?
Yes.
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 All right. Next set of minutes was for the June 27th work session. And again, as soon as you're prepared, we'll take a motion to approve those.
Motion to approve, Chairman.
I have a motion to approve those minutes.
Second.
And I have a second. Any discussion on those? Seeing none, Commissioner Pettis?
Yes.
Yes.
Excuse me. Yes.
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 Yes. All right, we have 5 there. That's good. All right, business involving guests. We're going to go right into, actually, only item I have in our chairman's report is my chairman's report item, as much as it is a reminder. In our county, in an effort to bolster and to provide greater services for the Madison County Food Bank, Boucher, I'm probably saying it wrong, Boucher, I think Victor was here, winery. They're hosting an event, Festival and Vine, on July 15th. It is on the property in the northern part of our county. All proceeds going to help the food bank. Activities from, they'll start in the morning with the race. They've got car show, they've got a live auction, live music and entertainment in the evening. So if you get a chance, it's a chance to come out and help out a very worthy organization in the county, the food bank. All right, with that, we're going to go into hearing actions on rezone matters. And what I'll do is we're going to have the P&Z chairman, planning and zoning chairman, come up and go through each one of these applications. And our protocol for these individual petitions and everything that will be to allow, after the petition is made, those that are in favor of it can have a chance to speak, and then we'll have those in opposition to give you an opportunity to speak. And then I'll give one last rebuttal opportunity to the petitioner. So with that, I'm going to turn the floor over to Mr. Lamar Houston.
Good evening, Chairman Scarborough, Commissioners. How are you this evening? Wonderful. All right, we have several rezone requests tonight. The first one is for Jeff Welburn, who is representing his father, Willis Welburn. They're requesting to rezone and subdivide approximately 1 acre of his 41-acre property from A1 to a conditional use in the industry. This is for the existing business of Greg's Meat Processing. Property is located at 2461 Highway 98 East on map 67, parcel 60 in District 2. The Planning and Zoning Commission voted 7-0 to recommend approval of this rezone request.
And I see Jeff here. Jeff, would you like to make your case for this?
Yes. What's going on is, here recently we got a letter from the insurance company, and they said that they're requiring commercial liability insurance on the property. Well, the way it is now, it's built before zoning ever went in place in 1975. And it's on the whole 41-acre tract, so therefore we cannot afford to have commercial liability on all 41 acres. So therefore, that's the reason we was wanting to lower it down to as small a tract as possible, so it wouldn't cost as much on the commercial liability insurance. And I've got a letter with me. If you do not have a letter, if you want to pass it around and look at it, it'd be fine with me from the company. And
I think we're good. No.
Okay. But anyway, it's been around since 1975, and I don't know what it would cost. It's going to cost a whole lot of money to try to do it on all 41 acres. And if we don't get this commercial liability insurance, she's already on my back, because Jenny Hardy up at the insurance place, they're gonna cut all liability off on her whole farm. And what's gotta be done, it's gotta be, if possible, zoned down to this small acreage so we can get a fence around it and fix it to where anybody that brings any kind of animals over there to be slaughtered will be in that condensed area, and therefore they won't be roaming out and going all across the pastures and everywhere else and presenting any kind of issues, you know. We've never had a very serious problem, but we've come close to it a couple of times in the past where an animal escaped and almost got in that highway, or, you know, and that, I can understand the insurance company requiring it because of the liability of people suing, you know, and then they would have to pay a larger sum of money in order to take care of the case in case there was an accident or someone's animal got gone and they couldn't recover it. So this is just something that's new, that's come up, and it's going to be required. And we're one of the only facilities left around the area. I have found out there's one more that's doing the different type of animals. Most of it's just doing deer processing here in the county. But there is one also over in Jackson County near Nicholson, but that's about it. Used to, they were scattered around the areas. And our meat processing plant is a type meat processing plant like it, as an individual like me or Trip or someone wanted to run an animal from their farm over to have it slaughtered, they could. And it was slaughtered and put into the freezer, and they would pick it up once it was done and take it home and use it at home because it's home use only. And we're not a place that actually sells meat, you know, to public. But, you know, I thought when we first came out with this, that's what they were thinking. But no, this is the reason why they've come out with it. And we just want to condense this down to a smaller tract. But I know that there's been word about spot zoning. And, you know, we live in a wide open county. And this is a little bit off the subject now, but we live in a wide open county. You take places like East Athens, Therapy, the Funeral Home, different places outside the little small cities that we live in the county. That would be probably considered spot zoning, but, you know, we're going to have revenue coming into the county. And this is just a suggestion for me now, because I know we all would like to see a Kroger like they have out there in Athens, Clark County now, to come out into the county in the whole area, downhill area. But we don't have the water and sewage today to have that. And it costs us a lot of money to do that. Now, years ago, I went to this school here, elementary school, but there was someone had a vision, once the school closed, to have a courthouse here. And they went planning, and they went conducting planning and saving. It was able to do it, and it done a really good job. And we're going to have to start looking towards the future on something like the sewage type facilities. But anyway, in the meantime, I'm afraid we're going to have to support some spot zoning when it comes to businesses to bring revenue into the county, as long as it don't affect the environment and affects our friends and neighbors. And our meat processing plant has most all the citizens that lives around it, the neighbors thought it was already zoned that way. They didn't know it wasn't, you know. But anyway, that's my case, and that's what's going on, and that's how come we're here. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. So, is there any questions?
Anybody have any questions for Jeff? Well, no, I think you covered it pretty good here, Jeff.
Okay.
So what we'll do is, so anybody else here that would like to speak in favor of this rezone, A1 to conditional use industrial? Anybody at all? Industrial. Am I correct? Okay. It was a change to it. Last call. Seeing none, is there anybody here that would like to speak in opposition of this particular rezone? I see none. I don't think there's anything to rebut there, Jeff, so I think we're through with it. We'll go ahead and close the public hearing. We'll bring it back here for a special session. And bring it before the board here, and we'll entertain a motion. If anybody has it, again, the motion is to rezone approximately 1 acre from A1 to industrial, conditional use industrial zoning classification.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we rezone from A1 to industrial.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on this? No? Commissioner Pepple.
Yes.
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 All right, very good. All right, Mr. Houston, you're up again, sir.
Okay. Our second rezone request is Ashley Fitzpatrick. She's representing her mother, Diana Whitlock. They are requesting to rezone her 8-acre property from A1 to RR to allow subdividing for an additional home site for the daughter. Property is located at 10731 Highway 98 West on map 2, parcel 54 in District 1. The Planning and Zoning Commission voted 7-0 to recommend approval of this rezone request.
All right, is Ashley Fitzpatrick here? Anybody here to speak for that? I don't think they have to be present for this one, so. Is there anybody that would like to speak in favor of this rezone? Unless you throw up your hand, I'm going to ask, is there anybody here like to speak in opposition of this rezone? Anybody at all? This is right before we go into Jackson County, I believe. Hearing nothing, and nobody to rebut, we're going to go ahead and close public meeting and open a special session, and then looking for a motion to rezone. Let's see, doesn't have any particular acreage. She just wants to rezone her 8-acre property from A1 to RR.
4 each. And Clay is 4 each.
Okay, so she's splitting, okay, I just didn't see it. Okay.
Motion to approve, Chairman.
Okay, I have a motion to approve.
Second.
I have a second. Is there any discussion here? No? All right, we'll go to the vote. Commissioner Eastco.
Yes.
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 Pass the word on to Ms. Fitzpatrick.
Hey, the third one, Jose and Tina Mazariegos, they were a no-show at our hearing, so that was a withdrawal. So we won't have a hearing on the third. The next one's Conrado Ariano Lopez. He's requesting to rezone his 4.46 acre property from A2 to RR for an additional home site. Property is located at 1654 Lucky Jones Road on map 14, parcel 82 in District 1. The Planning and Zoning Commission voted 7-0 to recommend approval of this rezone request.
All right, Mr. Conrado Ariano Lopez. And this is your son, correct?
Yeah, he's going to speak English. Be my son. I'm going to translate for him.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you. So we're here, like, cause, like, he wants to move this trailer, like, to our property, cause, like, they don't want it anymore, so they called him if he wanted it, cause they're about to throw it away, and he said, yeah. So we came here to get the permits, to see if we can move, cause it's A2, and we want to change it to RR, and so, like, later on, if I want to move there too, we can be right there with the family.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for them? What was your name again? Your name?
Edgar.
Edgar. Any questions at all? Just trying to put another mobile home on that single parcel then. Okay. All right, thank you. Is there anybody here tonight that would like to speak in favor of this rezone? None? Is there anybody that would like to speak in opposition to this rezone? All right. With that, unless you have any other statements, are you good with your position on that already?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. With that, we'll close the public meeting, and then we'll come back for the special session here. Looking for a motion to rezone from A2 to RR for an additional home site.
Motion to approve, Chairman.
I have a motion to approve.
Second.
I have a second. Is there any discussion on this? Seeing or hearing none, Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
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 All right, very good.
Houston.
Okay, our last rezone request is by Annette Schuler. She's requesting to rezone her 5-acre parcel from A2 to RR to give her sister 2 acres. This property is located on Highway 72, map 70, parcel 3103, in District 2. This rezone request by Ms. Schuler, she is the daughter of Clark Bryant. She's trying to sell her father's estate, and this property has a single-wide mobile home on it that belongs to Carol Blake, and Mr. Bryant gave a life estate to. But I'm told that this has nothing to do with the life estate, won't affect it in any way, and it's just a rezone request for the property and given the 2 acres that the trailer's on to Ms. Schuler's sister.
Okay. Ms. Annette Schuler here. Come on down.
Like you said, I am trying to close my father's estate. My dad passed away a 1.5 years ago, and he left my sister a house on 7 acres for her and her kids, and then we have 15 acres there that I need to sell to be split between the other children. So I can't sell 5 of that acres because we have a female that lives on the property that has a letter to live there. So I wanted to subdivide that piece of property down to 2 acres for that single wide, so I can sell the 13 acres. And that way I can close my dad's estate. Because until I can close the estate, I have to continue to do taxes on this property.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions? All right. Thank you, ma'am. If there's anybody here tonight that would like to speak in favor of the rezone from A2 to RR. Anybody at all? Is there anybody that would like to speak in opposition to the rezone? Anybody at all? All right, again, not too much to rebut unless you want to take the floor again. No, you good? Okay. All right, we'll close the public meeting then. Open special session for a vote on this. Motion would be to rezone 5-acre parcel from A2 to RR.
Motion to approve.
Second. I have a motion to approve in a second. Is there any discussion at all on this?
Chairman, just be clear, I think there was an issue with the easement that was on there, that's going to be taken care of, correct?
Yes.
That's one question I have.
Right, and I think that will be done when they have it and everything, so. Any other discussion on that? Commissioner Strickland?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
All right, very good. All right, next on the agenda is we have some amendments to existing ordinances, and I'll ask Mr. Houston to, again, bring those to us.
Okay, we've got quite a few amendments here. The first one is the subdivision regulations. It's item 1, which deals with section 7.7 lot requirements. The second probably the last one in your packet, or one of the last two in your packet.
There you go. Everybody, second, if you've got and it is in our packet, it's a text document with both the highlighted portion in red is the proposed.
Correct. Yeah, the highlighted red was changing the minimum required, the minimum lot size for a subdivision from 1 to 1.5 acres. There's also, you'll see down at the bottom of paragraph 2, a line that is struck out. We got to looking at that, and Linda could find no reason that sentence should even be there. It makes no sense that it's written. She couldn't find anything else in the ordinances that would apply to, so that's why that is struck out. The Planning and Zoning Commission discussed this, and our recommendation was to leave the minimum lot size for a subdivision at 1 acre. That was a vote of 5 to 2 to recommend that it remain at 1 acre.
And just so I understand, that left in place also the 3/4 acre if it had water and or dirt sewage.
Yes.
That's great. All right. So again, the item on the before you was a proposed increase to a 1.5 acre. The recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission to leave it at 1 acre. So is there anybody that would like to speak in favor of changing or increasing this to 1.5 acres?
My name is Sue Stone. I live at 1495 Brush Creek Road. And what I really want to understand, which is one thing you said, when this came up before the Planning and Zoning Commission, it was said that it allowed 3/4 acre, even though it doesn't say 3/4 acre in that. So I was talking to Linda, and she says there's a chart that comes down and does that. I think it should be more specific or something. In other words, I think 3/4 of an acre is awfully small for our septic systems. And right now there are no, as I understand it, sewer in the county. So you're opening. Does it have to have septic on it? I mean, sewer on it to be 3/4 acre?
No, ma'am, that's just when it has water.
Okay, 3/4 when you have water. So you'll be allowing septic systems on 3/4 acre. And I think that's, in a subdivision especially, is something to really consider. I don't know what I think about the 1 to 1.5 acres, and I'm not going to talk about that. I'm talking about the minimum right here, that I think that should be specified and thought out very carefully if it has septic on 3/4 of an acre and it isn't a subdivision.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to speak in favor of this?
Mr. Carver, I just have a question.
Please.
For Linda.
Please.
Does 3/4 of an acre with a septic tank, does that meet state regulation?
That's how it's been since I've been here for 15 years.
State regulation, I think, is 25,000 square feet.
So they do approve it, yes.
State just.
Okay. Is there anybody else like to speak in favor? Anybody here that would like to speak in opposition? Anybody at all? Hearing none, we'll close the public forum. We'll come back behind our desk here, and we'll have the special session to consider a motion. As it currently stands, a motion to increase minimum lot size for subdivisions of 1.5 acres. You see all the accompanying verbiage in the text there.
This would take away the minimum 3/4 acre then. Is that correct?
It would, so as I'm reading this, and I'll ask for clarification here, to increase to 1.5 acres would eliminate.
Yes.
And what that does too is there's some other things that would eliminate by virtue.
The red was the Board of Commissioners' recommendation.
Right. The current is 1 acre with a 3/4 acre also, if it has water and or sewage. So yes, by increasing to 1.5 acres, you do eliminate that.
It's not water and sewer, it's just water.
Either or.
I think it's either or, because, and the intent is not to have both of, you gotta have one of those two on that 3/4 acre tract.
But we
So
don't,
so you're not mixing the,
but we don't have sewer.
Right, so, and there's probably an implication there because of the absence of sewer, which, but the ordinance still reads and or, like.
Motion to approve the 1.5 acre minimum.
Okay, I have a motion to approve the 1.5 acre. Is there a second?
I'll say, because I want to discuss this.
Okay, I have a second. Is there discussion on it then?
You said that planning and zoning, I was there that night, but the way I understood it, y'all just wanted to leave it at 1 acre.
Correct.
5 to 2.
Both sides.
And that would leave the 0.75 acre alone as well.
So I have a motion and a second to increase to 1.5 acre. Any further discussion?
I'd like to see, you got 25,000 square feet for septic. If it's acre, you got what, another 21,000, not even 18,000 square foot for a house and a yard, and I guess your yard's gonna be on top of where's everything good. I think the minimum on either one should be 1 acre. That's just my opinion. To bring this 0.75 up to 1 acre, and then leave, basically just minimum lot size period would be 1 acre. And that would amount to.
If I understand you right, yeah, you're just asking,
Yeah, and I'm just
independent of the motion on the table right now, though, you're suggesting that if it were to be 1 acre minimum period, you're suggesting doing away with the 3/4 acre sewer, well.
Because, it's gonna be a little lot more sewer, I think.
County water.
Right, and, with a larger minimum size, we're getting a larger house that would pay for itself. I mean, when we make, the minimum, 3/4 lots, let's say. I mean, our schools are overflowing right now. And, we want a house and property, to hopefully pay for itself. That's just my thoughts. We don't have the business, we don't have the infrastructure. We want to keep our county safe, appreciate the land that we do have. That's just my thoughts on that.
It's also a question of how much permeable land you have left after you build a house, and you concrete a driveway, and you build a patio and a barn, and a outbuilding.
Any other discussion?
This is one I hadn't got much public feedback, so we'll talk about tonight.
If you're ready to vote, we'll go to vote. And the vote is, as it stands right now, motion and second to increase minimum lot size per subdivision to 1.5 acres. Commissioner Bettis?
Yes.
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 Yes. All right, there you go, 1.5 acres.
Okay, the next amendment is item 2. Should be on the same page as, this is section 4 under conservation subdivision. Recommended that the conservation subdivision, section 4.4, become part of section 7.7 as well. And that the next 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 paragraphs just become part of 7.7. The recommended changes are highlighted in red, adding one sentence, striking of one sentence and changing one word and several footage requirements. And Planning and Zoning Commission voted 4-3 to recommend approval of this zoning amendment. 4-3.
So, and this may be difficult for people to comment on if you haven't looked at it, but it's some of the language we're looking to, looks like the attempt here is to remove the conservation notion, go to a traditional design standard. One easement or drive, private drive, is allowed to serve 4 lots, so we're actually defining entry and basically the density for that drive. And then you've got, as they say, some footage requirements front and rear of the dwelling unit. So, is there anybody here that would like to speak in favor of these changes? Anybody like to speak in favor? Anybody want to speak in opposition to it? Any thoughts? Seeing none, close the public meeting, have to open up special session, and motion would be to basically include item 2, this section under conservation subdivision, as part of the preceding section 7.7.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I thought we was going to do away with conservation subdivisions.
And again, this has language in it that refers to that. This is not actually the item. Item number 4 for 3. We're getting a little ahead after Houston here. That one's coming up though. We did, and he is, to answer your question. So this is really just about cleaning up the language in lot requirements.
Why am I being so confused?
It's coming.
It's coming, yeah, and it'll be a short. That one will be a short discussion on that one.
Well,
So.
then that goes off with this whole
It'll all work out. Yeah, this is just adding language as it defines lots. I call them setback requirements. And I know it's not the proper term, but it's a front and rear distances from other units, and again, a provision for flag lots, which in large measure are irregular lots, permitted to provide more efficient utilization of space. So that's why they're talking about trying to bring that into.
In other words, this pertains to if we had conservation subdivision, this language pertains to that.
Yeah, this particular portion right here was under conservation subdivision. That's where it existed. But we can't exclude it, because it still has applicability to the items that he mentioned in the first one as far as the lot size.
Item number 4, you're going to be deleting conservation subdivision.
Right, but we didn't want to throw this language out.
Banger.
Right, so anybody, let's see, so the motion is to actually include this portion, which did exist under conservation subdivision. This language, as it's been amended, to the section 7.7, that's the motion.
4-3 to approve.
And it's 4-3.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve. And I now have a second. Is there any discussion on this? Any questions? Any at all? So a motion and a second to approve adding this to 7.7. Vote goes to Commissioner Bettis.
Yes.
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 Okay, the next one is on the second page of that. It's listed as item 2, but it should be item 3. It deals with section 7.710 to read as follows. All homes are to be site-built and must be built on concrete foundation. And in parentheses, it's got slab or crawl space. Planning and Zoning Commission voted 5-2 to recommend approval of this amendment.
Good. So the item is, all homes are to be site-built, and for clarification, site-built doesn't necessarily mean non-modular. It needs to be modular, correct. So that does allow for a modular home. It does eliminate a mobile home provision in a subdivision. And then that be built on a concrete foundation, whether it be slab and crawl space. Is there anyone who'd like to speak in favor or in support of this amendment?
Not in favor, but may I ask a question?
Ask away.
I talked to Linda again about this. At the Planning and Zoning Commission, there were a couple of commissioners that didn't understand that site-built could include modular. And I was talking to her, and she said that's a state law. Is there any way that this county can, do we have to follow the state law, or can we make it stricter? That's what I'm trying to ask.
I don't think there's anything on the agenda about proceeding.
So
That's not one of the meetings.
So in general, the county can, generally speaking, the county can impose more constraining or more stringent requirements, but you can't go the other way. So that would probably be construed as a little over the top as far as restriction there. So I don't think that would work. Is there anybody else that would like to speak in favor of site-built on concrete foundation provision? Is there anybody like to speak in opposition to it? Seeing none, we'll close the public meeting and special session. The motion is to include item 3 as it's listed, or as it's changed here. All homes that be site-built must be built on concrete foundation, slab or crawl space.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve.
Second.
I have a second. Is there any discussion on this? Seeing none. Commissioner Pepple?
Yes.
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 All right. Last item on the subdivision.
Okay,
On the
Mr. Eastfield. Article 4, titled Conservation Subdivision, to be deleted in its entirety. Vote for the Planning and Zoning Commission was 7-0 to recommend approval.
All right. So, is there anybody that would like to speak in favor of deleting in its entirety any provision for conservation subdivision?
That would be me.
Anybody at all? Is there anybody here like to speak in opposition to deleting a provision for conservation subdivision? Seeing none, close the public meeting. Special session here will entertain a motion to delete in its entirety any mention of conservation or the section on conservation subdivision.
I will make that motion.
I have a motion to accept it, and I have a second.
On that seat,
Okay. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Commissioner Eastfield?
Yes.
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 Very good. Outstanding. I was a little ahead of myself. There was one more. I'm sorry.
No problem.
After a while, they all start looking the same. The next amendment, all overlay districts are to be deleted from any subdivision requirements. The Planning and Zoning Commission voted 7-0 to recommend approval of this amendment.
Thank you, Mark. All right. Is there anybody that would like to speak in favor of deleting all overlay districts from any subdivision requirement? Anybody else? Is there anybody that would like to speak in opposition to deleting overlay districts from subdivision requirements? All right, we're going to close the public meeting, open a special session, entertain a motion to delete overlay districts from any subdivision requirement.
Can I, before you do the motion,
Please.
did you have any big input or anything from any of the cities on that? I think I didn't get calls. No input from cities. They must be good with it, do you? I'm through.
Okay. I'll still entertain a motion to,
So move, Mr. Chairman.
okay, I have a motion to delete overlay districts from subdivision requirements. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Discussion on this? Any discussion? Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
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 Very good. All right, sir, you're up again.
Okay, the next one has to do with poultry houses. Probably at the back of your packet, you haven't already found it. Item 1. All current poultry houses and hog parlors and other intensive agriculture are grandfathered in. The Planning and Zoning Commission voted 7-0 to recommend this be approved.
Thank you, Mark. All right. Anybody here tonight that'd like to speak in favor of allowing current poultry houses, hog parlors, and other intensive agriculture, leaving them untouched, they're grandfathered in regarding these amendments? Anybody want to speak against that, in opposition to leaving or grandfathering poultry houses, current poultry houses and hog parlors?
Does this mean, poultry houses and poultry operation it's already in, business now, or is it some that's being constructed?
Right, if they exist or if they're under construction, I consider that current. Is that correct?
Well, it's really, it's just even without that, by operation of law, if you have vested rights in what you're already doing, then a change in the law and the zoning ordinance can't impact that. So vested rights would be once you've made the investment, taken overt actions. It has to be on a case-by-case basis. But yeah, basically, somebody's made an investment relying on what it said before this change. They probably have vested rights and they can continue forward.
Would that affect any that's in litigation now?
No, well, no, because application's already filed on that, so, right.
So this is anything that's currently A1? Right.
Right.
Okay, just.
Right, that's right.
Let me ask you a question. I'm not going very far into this, Mike.
Yeah.
That's still, does this grandfather, if you're go down the poultry business for a length of time, does the grandfather statutes go away?
You're testing me now. Not usually, unless you have something in your zoning. Now, and you can do that. And you can have things in your zoning ordinance that say once a use has been discontinued for a period of time, then it's called amelioration of the zone. It's how you sort of get the old stuff into compliance, but you have to say that in your statute, or your ordinance,
Well,
right?
apparently, I'm gonna go a little bit further. Apparently, when I went to go back in business, when I business that was grandfathered in, I wasn't allowed to do it. And I spent $185,000 until I changed the rule that they could. And that sticks in my craw. It's part of my bank account too. But that rule got changed, didn't it?
It did.
Well, there's something, the use is grandfathered in the whole
So we're looking, in current poultry houses, nobody to speak in opposition, just to ever get to that point. I get lost in it sometimes too here.
You did.
I do. Seeing no one who wants to speak in opposition to it, we'll close the public meeting, open a special session, and we'll entertain a motion to recognize all current poultry houses, hog parlors, and intensive agriculture grandfathered in.
With no limitation. No time limitation.
Is that implied there?
That other rule gone completely? I haven't seen it. Is it gone?
Oh, what you, that pertains to you, yes, for your business, yes.
Well, this is business too. So there's no limitation. We go out of business, stay out of business in the number of days, weeks, months, years, come back in business. I'm grandfathered.
Again, assuming that this is all just saying we'll comply with what the law already requires, then it's the use, not the classification. So, and question that Mr. Strickland and I were just discussing. So, if you were row cropping before, you discontinue that doesn't mean you can go back to doing, for example, a poultry house, something else that was allowed A1, but you can go back to row cropping because that's the exact use you were doing before.
That's all I want to do. But that rule's gone. Okay.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve.
Second.
I have a second. Any further discussion on that? All right, Commissioner Pepple?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Very good.
Okay, the next one is item 2, we get into the meat and potatoes of poultry house stuff. We looked at the suggested amendment here, and we discussed it quite extensively and made some adjustments to it, and the Planning and Zoning Commission voted 7-0 to adjust this change as follows. To recommend the setbacks be 300 feet from all property lines. 300 feet from all property lines, whether it is on the side of the house with the fans or the end of the house with the fans, just 300 feet from any property line. And they also, one of the changes that we recommended was where the adjoining zones are A2, RR, R1, R2, and R3, there's to be a vegetative or earthen barrier. A2, RR, R1, R2, and R3, that there be a vegetative or earthen barrier.
On the tunnel fan side,
Sir?
just on the tunnel fan side. No, yes.
Any surrounding property.
I was thinking it was tunnel guys.
That is,
We discussed that about the fans and everything, and then we decided to go all the way around regardless of where the fans are. Right?
correct?
That's right.
I was thinking, that's all correct. I was thinking it was.
Yeah,
That's not the way it was.
it is.
What do we vote on?
That's what we voted on. The next change was to, poultry houses must be 600 feet from any school. And a poultry house must be 400 feet from any residence other than what is on the property as currently is stated in the zoning. And the last one was to delete the recommendation by the Board of Commissioners that there shall be a vegetative or natural barrier between poultry houses and the road frontage. And no poultry or hog farm shall be allowed within 1 mile of any municipality in Madison County. That was, like I said, that was a vote of 7-0 from the board to recommend those changes to item number 2, section 7.1.1.3.
And before we sit down there,
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that we have the,
This is what I'm, yeah.
so what we have here, these are multiple changes to, or inclusions. And I just want to make sure this is, whether it's viewed in its entirety or if there's discussion about some of the individual, numbers, requirements, setbacks. So this is all recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Board, but I've got 300 feet from all property lines, is that correct?
From all property lines, yes, sir.
Common property.
All common.
Is there a difference between any property line and common property line?
I'm thinking, yeah, another, yeah. The second one I had is if adjoining property is A2, R1, R2, R3,
And RR.
and R, I apologize, there would be a vegetative or earthen barrier.
Correct.
And that was on all, was that on all sides or in between the A1 and all of those pieces? So in other words, if it had multiple properties around it, you're just saying anywhere that exists, there would be vegetative barrier between that.
Yes.
But not between the road and the houses.
But that is included at the very end though.
Yeah.
That one's the second to the last sentence of what you read there. So that covers the road frontage right there.
That's right. Basically, that just calls that whole last two sentences to just be removed.
So let me, yes, I've got that one. Sorry, there was one in between. I've got 600 feet from school. And if I could get you to finish out that.
400 feet from any residence other than what is on the property, which is currently in the zoning ordinances.
Okay.
The last one is to delete that last two sentences there.
In the red.
Yes, sir. What about the vegetative or natural barrier between poultry houses and road frontage, and also about the 1 mile distance of any municipality in the county?
Okay.
That was 7-0. 7-0 to do that.
Yes, yes, it was 7-0 to recommend those changes and approval.
All right. So folks, if you're following along on that, several things here, and I'm inclined to take one at a time. Otherwise, we're going to agree on two and not two, you know, and it's going to be a little hard to parcel these out. So if we could, let's talk about setbacks. The first one. Is there anybody like to speak in favor of a 300-foot setback from all common or all property lines?
Can I ask a question?
Please.
Streams and waterways, I didn't hear anything in the proposals as far as keeping the runoff away from streams and maybe lakes or, is there anything in the in that?
That's governed by EPD.
Could you explain what the,
Right. I am aware that, EPD does have requirements, but I don't have them at my fingertip though. I just don't have that. My guess is that, again, that we're not gonna do anything or, we don't have the authority to do anything that would supersede or that would encroach upon a state or an EPD.
because I was just referring to, the mega farms today, that's, 20 houses that would be built within, 300 feet of stream and the runoffs and all the other stuff that goes on around that mega farm. Are there provisions that we can actually, protect that water stream if that's in these positions, provisions?
I don't know. I don't have the answer to that.
Well, it's a matter of preemption, and you have to look at a case-by-case basis. Now, that last question that came up about complying with state law, that state law is written specifically that local government cannot change it. Now, some particular environmental requirements say that local government can impose more stringent but not less stringent requirements. In this case, I don't know. I'm like the chairman, I don't have it at my fingertips.
I think what he's talking about, for the hog farmers and things, I don't know that there's any runoff from a chicken house except when the litter's spread in the pastures. I mean, that's when you're gonna get.
I'd like to make a comment about according to EPD or EPA standards right now, any earth moving activity that covers more than 1 acre has to comply with the erosion control and sedimentation plan.
Right.
And that is enforced by each county code enforcement department. So anybody who wants to build, like you said, a mega farm, first thing I got to do is get a site work plan. It's got to be approved by EPD.
And I do remember that.
Construction runoff.
Right. I didn't want to get Ms. Moon to do anything. Same thing.
Same comment. That's already covered through the state and federal regulations.
And I'm okay with not adding to that, so that's fine. Okay, so, again, with respect to 300-foot setbacks from all property lines, anybody here want to speak in favor of that? Is there anybody here that would like to speak in opposition to it? Mr. Fieldale. Can I come up here? Please, sir, please. It was Mr. Martin, wasn't it?
It is.
Okay.
And I'm not really for or against, but if I stood up against or for it, I'd have got shot, so. Anyhow, my name's Ken Martin, I'm board manager from Fieldale Farms. And I don't have it 300 feet, that's what y'all decide is fine, but here's, can they get a variance? Can a neighbor sign a variance? No? All right, and the other one, I heard a common property line. And I ran into this in Franklin County. What if somebody owns both pieces of property? What if there's a property line, he buys the adjoining property? So you still have to stay 300 feet off that line?
I think you can do this kind of stuff, but the problem with that is people, they won't, how long is that? You can't say that they're always gonna have that same common property line.
Ms. Linda said they would have to join the two parcels.
That's right, they would have to be
So they
combined.
can join the two parcels.
If-
I just ran into that.
They'd have to be the same zone and be combined.
You have to be careful of that with
But
conservation,
if they're in-
because that changes their contract with conservation.
That was my next remark. If they're in conservation, they can't be combined.
Okay.
You can't add to the contract. You can take from it, but you can't add to it.
Okay. If they own both sides of the street, they still have the state line between, the county line in between, right? Okay.
Okay.
Wait a minute, wait. You can take away from conservation, but you can't add to it. You sure that ain't right back?
If you've got a 10-year contract on 20 acres, You can take away from that, you can take land away from it, but you cannot add land to that
But
contract.
that land you take away from it's got to remain in conservation.
That's right.
But if I buy
If they're
a
voting.
40-acre tract next to a tract I already have, I can put it in conservation, is that correct?
There was a state law change 2 or 3 years ago specifically about that allowed adding newly acquired acreage to an existing contract, and you can do that. Now, I can't answer yes to your question because I don't know if it meets all, there's requirements that I don't remember off the top of my head, but yeah, there's a way to do that.
It could be called contiguous. I can't say that word, contiguous.
Contiguous.
Next door to it. But you can also use about 10 acres if you got a squirrel on it.
So last call for any comments or, anybody want to speak in favor of 300 split?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. When did opportunity for variances go away? That is, my understanding of these ordinances, anytime you have a specific number for a setback or something, then you do have the opportunity to request that variance. It wasn't an ordinance reading, and I don't have an ordinance with me, I'd have to go back and look. So, has that gone away?
And I'm not sure.
Mike, you can probably explain it, but it has to meet certain criteria in order to ask for that variance.
Correct. The variance provision is very stringent in Madison County compared to many. And basically, variance is only allowed if it's a pre-existing condition and it's not something that's created by the owner. So typically it's because you have an odd configuration of lot lines, a narrow corner or something. If you acquire property in that condition and you need variance, you can get one. If you split your property up yourself to create that condition, you can't get a variance for that.
So, answer the question, if variances still are allowed?
Same thing still there that's always been there.
Thank you.
I was curious, did he ask if we would support that, or if that's allowed? If that's what we're trying to get at?
Well,
No,
my
no,
concern
no problem.
is, my concern is the statement
We'll get
that
back to it.
variances are not allowed.
Right.
That's incorrect.
Right, so they're allowed if conditions are, according to what I just heard, if they're met, and in large measure, they're pre-existing, not caused by, property owner or. Last call, anybody speaking in favor? Is there anybody that likes to speak in opposition to 300-foot setback? All property lines.
How much speak, Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
All right. Thank you for your time. Let me pass these around. I think most of y'all have got one of these. In the process of all this discussion, we've heard a whole lot of numbers about what else is out there. That is officially what other counties around us are doing. That is what is on their books. This is about proposals. That is what is on their books. So you can see what the recommendation that has been made, or and I think all of y'all got a letter from Farm Bureau from their recommendations that address that. And we talked to y'all about the reality of the issues involving, distance in the poultry house. The science says the original ordinance was 200 feet, 400 feet from adjacent property. Science says even that exceeds any needs. So the addition of that additional 300 foot actually is even a greater buffer than what already was in place, and that also is above and beyond anything that science tells us is needed. So that actually this is a concession, just as a goodwill gesture, if you think of it that way. There's no question that the setbacks that were initially stated in the document that we got from the commissioners, that is massive overkill and would essentially terminate the poultry industry in Madison County. So, the 300 foot 300-foot gesture, if you recall that, from recommendation that went to the planning commission, or came before the planning commission from Farm Bureau. That in no way is saying that 200 feet's a problem, but it's saying that we realize that y'all are dealing with public perception, and 300 feet is,
Let me ask you a question on Franklin County, and Mr. Mark might be able to help me out on this. I think they just lifted a moratorium, and one of the things imposed was 1,000 foot on the exhaust in Franklin County.
650.
600?
They were gonna extend all of that, lines and all that, and I was sitting right there, and the two local mayors showed up and said, the farmers are doing a great job, we just want to stay 1,000 feet away from the city limit.
Right.
So that was in new imposed, 1,000 feet from the city limit, 600 feet from the also from the residents. They did not add anything to the setbacks on the bylaws.
Okay. I spoke with John Phillips Friday, and I asked him that very question. He told me 1,000 feet, but I
Now they're over 600 unless they put it in print and say.
Right. So, and that's the only reason I'm asking.
but you're going to limit comments to just the 300 foot.
Right, because I think, it'll convolute the other discussion, so, anybody else wants to speak in favor? I'm sorry, in opposition, this was in opposition, right?
Opposition?
Well,
Okay.
I thought, yeah, I'm sorry, hey, David, I'll give you a chance, if you want to speak in favor of the 300 foot, I thought we moved on to opposition, but please go ahead.
I'm David Whitehead, and we already have some poultry houses there on our farm, and, we met the requirements before, but we're trying, my daughter wants to build her some new houses too, real soon. But we have already gave enough data and information to the board that I think that states that everything that's being regulated is exceeding what, the state requirements are for the poultry industry. And I think that to try to enlarge this anymore is not, it's an overkill. So that's, basically where I'm coming from is there's enough data and information that's regulated these things to where we're already reaching out further than what the requirements are for everything. So, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else wants to speak? Well, we'll move into the opposition. Anybody want to speak in opposition to it? Anybody? Seeing none, we'll close public hearing, open up special session, and so now that I'll entertain a motion, and this is what this will come down to. We'll entertain a motion. We have a recommendation from P&D board for 300 foot from all property lines. Do I have a motion to approve 300 feet?
We're doing the exhaust fan later, correct?
That is correct.
Mr. Chairman, I make the motion that we go with recommended 300 feet.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second for 300 feet from property lines. Any discussion on that? Any discussion? Seeing none. Commissioner Easto?
Yes.
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 Good. Okay, the second item that was presented, and I've got recommendations from the P&Z board, but I also have what was put out there initially from recommendations. So I'm trying to make sure these we're not overlapping. I think let's talk about the setback from the exhaust fans, what we're calling tunnel exhauster. The original, the one that was put out there was 1,000 feet. I've seen a 600 foot recommendation from schools and everything. I don't know if that was by the planning and zoning. I think that was just a setback in general from any side of the poultry house, 600 feet. I'd like to address specifically the exhaust fan on the end of the house there. And I understand that some of them have banks of them on, you know, on the sides too, but, so, let's, tell you what, let's do. I'm gonna, since it was out there originally as 1,000 feet, is there anybody here that would like to speak in favor, start with in favor, of a 1,000-foot setback from the property line on the exhaust end of the cul-de-sac? Anybody? Anybody want to speak in favor? Anybody want to speak in opposition to it? I got one man coming in. I'll get you to Martin after that. Come on up.
No, I'll yield the floor to Ken Martin.
No, don't leave it to me, by the way. I'm trying to figure out how much land they take.
Too much. I want to start with thanking each and every one of you for your time and effort as being a member of the Board of Commissioners. I know it's thankless, a low-paying job. It's like racing chickens.
I like chicken, though.
All right, everybody likes chicken. The chicken's got to come from somewhere, and it's got to be grown by somebody. And chicken is a big industry in Madison County. I know a lot of us don't like to smell it, but it's got to come from somewhere. And 1,000 foot from the exhaust ends of the chicken house is not economical. It's not feasible. There are ways that you can mitigate any dust or feathers that come out of the end of the chicken house without requiring. We've already established a 300-foot setback, and now you want to go add 1,000 foot from it. So you're taking 1,000 foot of a farmer's property. Well, why not take 1,000 foot or 500 foot from the adjacent property? If somebody wants to build a house there, the farmer's got to be 500 or 300 foot, and then that house has got to be 700 foot. I mean, asking the farmer or the landowner to give up 1,000 feet, in my way of thinking, is sort of like eminent domain. You're taking away my use of the property, that all you can do with it is grow trees or put in grass and grow cows on it. I would like for y'all to take that in consideration. If you want to take the 1,000 feet, then the county owns the property and pays the tax on it. That's the way I look at it. But I'd like for y'all to do careful consideration on it. Thank you.
Can I get your name?
Paul Simmons. I live on Highway 191. My brother and I are probably one of the bigger poultry producers in the county. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Martin, you have this one?
If you didn't grandfather the houses that are in existence, how many would meet that requirement? None, probably not. So you wouldn't have any poultry houses in Madison County with 1,000-foot setback. The science behind it tells you 300 feet. You can look at it, dust and all that, but you can't measure odor, and that's what everybody's going to argue about, is odor. You can't measure it.
That's true.
So, and I sent John an email, but I probably won't get an answer till tomorrow, but sometimes. And I thought they said 600. They may have been 600 from the line, 1,000 from the house, which put 400 feet on the other land, too. It just makes it such a big piece of property, and I know you're talking about mega farms, but the bigger you make this piece of land, the bigger that farm has to be to pay for it. The day of a two-house farm on 20 acres, you've done away with that. They won't fit, they won't make it anywhere. So somebody's, in the old days, when I started, I guess that was the old days, we had a lot of spouses that would be home and one would watch after kids and 2 chicken houses, and that's what everybody in here remembers. And now it's a sole income, so that's why these things have got bigger. But as I've told every county around, the bigger you make this piece of land, the larger the number of houses has to be to cover the cost of that land. When you guys start, if you could find a perfect rectangle in Madison County, you're now looking at 48 acres as a dead minimum to get 6 houses on it. And I don't know a perfect rectangle in this county. Everything's by wandering property lines and all that kind of stuff. So just keep in mind that there wouldn't probably not be a chicken house in this county if you didn't grandfather them in. So pretty long setback. I don't know of another county that's quite that far. But and as Paul said, Hart County did take the measure. You can't build a chicken house within 350 feet of the property, and you can't build a residence within 350 feet of a chicken house. So nobody can move in beside.
Okay. Next.
Matt Whitehead. I live at 1631 Mariah Church Road in Culver. Like my dad said, all of these regulations that are being brought forward tonight, I'd like to stand in opposition to all of them. But I'm getting chickens in the morning, so I need to get finished up with everything. So I don't have time to stand in opposition to everything. But I do want to stand in opposition because I feel that I need to fight for my friends and family and neighbors, that their livelihood is going to be influenced by all of these types of regulations that's being brought forward. And like I say, we've already met all the requirements in the past, and I do believe it is overkill. My dad stuck his neck out there for me. All my life I've desired to take what my dad and my granddad has built and pursue it and progress, what we wanted to do on a farm. Unfortunately, our income, it wasn't enough to provide for me and my family, so we made the decision to build chicken houses. I'm able to pursue my dreams and my desires because of those poultry houses. My sister's coming home in May next year, graduating college, and she's got those same desires and dreams. And these chicken houses are going to be her way of life. These regulations are going to hinder her. They're going to hurt her. As a young farmer, I've learned, and I'm still learning, that we have enough hardships as it is, whether it be higher expenses to bring a quality product to the table, whether it be uneducated consumers who think they know what it takes to bring a product that they need, whether it be more regulations that's hardening for our community. As a country, I know this is kind of a broad thing, but as a country, we voted for a man who ran his campaign on less regulations to promote more growth for America. As a county, we voted for that man. As a county, we voted for your chair, and we hope that you don't let us down by putting more restraints on us than what we have. Our county, as has been said by Mr. Simmons, is a big base of agriculture production. It's a pillar of our community. Farmers around here, we have a tighter bond than most other folks. We have a sense of pride for the future of our following behind us. As a young man trying to be successful in a business that's not very successful, I'm looking for all the guidance and knowledge that I can get. It starts small with these little regulations that can hinder us a little bit now, but it'll grow and it'll grow. And this is not the type of guidance that I want to bring my children up under. If we want to regulate things for the next 25 years, so the next person that's sitting in your chair will say they really thought this through for the better part of the county. Regulate things so that our children can succeed the way, even more than what we desire. I hope you take this under consideration, because I'm trying to build my family, my sister's going to try to build her family, and who knows what the future holds for our children. If they want to build on our farm, I'm sorry, son, but the county don't allow us regulations to expand. Either I'm going to have to give everything to you and put myself in a stress, or you're going to have to move off the farm. And as a country, we have failed in progressing our family. There's all kinds of statistics about it, and I just feel that we need to embrace the people that are working for us and trying to put food on the table instead of making it harder for them. Thank you.
Thomas Harrell, Adams Clark Road. I just wanted to bring up, I think in all that we do tonight, we try to have as little gray area as possible. And I know we all think tunnel fans, you're talking about the end of the houses. My tunnel fans are on the side of the houses, and I see that that's going to say, all right, 1,000 feet this way, 1,000 feet this way, 1,000 feet this way. When in reality, if the wind's blowing this way, it's going to smell that way. If the wind's blowing this way, it's going to smell over there. And if the wind blowing toward my tunnel fans, he's staying 50 feet away from them. It doesn't, You know, that it's just a perception, you know, but the 1,000 feet, whether it's 1,000, 500, 600, you know, I feel whatever you do there, you're really doing on 3 sides. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Can I bug you one more time?
Please, please.
Is that okay? I'll leave it to Franklin County, if I can read this little print. And this is their newest ones that they just came out with. Not that you're Franklin County, and I know go back to Franklin County and do what you want, but, if there's an inhabitable dwelling nearby within 100 feet of a property line, the setback must be at least 300 feet from the property line. The exhaust stand must be at least 600 feet from any inhabitable dwelling. Not 600 feet from the line, 600 feet from an inhabitable dwelling. It said this does not include dwellings on the property in which the poultry house is being constructed. Poultry houses shall be constructed where the exhaust stand is at least 1,000 feet measured perpendicularly from the exhaust and from the poultry house for a main building that is regularly used as a government building, school, hospital, church, or other place of worship, senior center, nursing home, retirement home, restaurant, or public community center. So,
Yeah.
got it?
No, I thank you.
Gary Burnett, 625 Muscle Drive. Just wanted to let you know, before you make decisions on something that you guys, a lot of you may not know anything about, but I own land right next to a chicken house. The property line is probably about 250, 300 feet. I challenge you tomorrow, it's supposed to be about 91. Come down to my farm, and I'll be more than happy to stand on the property line right there when those fans are running. And you tell me, do you feel it? Do you see fellas coming all over on my property? You won't even know it except for smell. And the smell is not all that bad, because I use chicken litter all over my pastures. I gotta have it. So just before you think deeply about it, you know, and I challenge you to come down and look at a chicken farm. See how far, you know, you will smell. Walk 1,000 feet back and then see if it's any difference. I don't think you're gonna see any difference, guys. I really don't.
Thank you.
A lot of times if we don't know something, we do check into it, you know. I'm not a farmer, I'll be the first one to admit it, but then again, I am, and I think a lot of people are, we do our research. They're friends, there are many friends in here, and, you know, but I don't want everybody to think that we're just sit up here and make decisions and we don't have sleepless nights. We do, okay? And we try to do our homework.
My name is Terry Stevenson. I live at 2637 Adams Park. I have 4 chicken houses. My home I built in '97. Before that we had a trailer. It's less than 400 feet from the exhaust fans. Now would I build my own house 400 foot if it was a problem? And if we have a 300 foot, it ought to be 300 foot if a resident, they have to give up 300 foot. If you talk about 1,000 foot, that's a long ways. Frank again talk about consequences. Y'all fixing to set some consequences that's going to go on for a long time. So if you take that 1,000 foot variance, that's going to cut out a lot of chicken houses being built. It's also when some of these houses go out, will not be rebuilt. So if you take 600 to 700 houses in Madison County, you take those away in 5 to 10 years, you just shut down Pilgrim's Pride of Athens, which is the largest employer other than government in Athens. So you just put out a lot of people out of work. So think about consequences. You know, it ain't just a couple hundred farmers you're talking about putting out of business. You're talking about a lot of people shutting them out of their livelihood. But anyway.
Okay, thank you.
My name's Trey McKay. I live at 2190 Shallow Fort Lamar Road. Yes, a lot of what's going on tonight. For instance, what Terry was talking about, putting people out of business. 1,000 foot setback from exhaust fans. The way our property lays puts us out of chickens. We're in the process of trying to get a permit to build a chicken house at the moment. 300 foot setback is going to require variance. But as Matt I don't think he's still here, Matt Whitehead said, I've been wanting to farm my whole life. And with some of these setbacks and some of the stuff y'all are talking about putting into place, I won't get to farm. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
If y'all let me address this from several points, and I will try not to keep bothering you. The intent of the proposal that we submitted from Farm Bureau, 300-foot setback all the way around, and in lieu of a separate setback from the Bank of Fans to total in, and one of the reasons we addressed it this way, really, really careful in the wording of this setback. You call them exhaust fans. Every fan is an exhaust fan. If you're talking about a 600-foot or a 1,000-foot setback for exhaust fan, then that becomes a 1,000-foot setback all the way around the property. So that's the reason that we wanted to address it from a 300-foot setback everywhere. And in lieu of an additional setback, which we recognize is not necessary, but from a perception standpoint, we realize that people are going to look at that fan, they think those are going to be terrible things. So in lieu of that, our recommendation was to require an earthen barrier or a vegetative barrier around where those total exhaust fans exist. And then we also proposed a specific definition of what those total fans are, so that we can be very clear that's what everybody is talking about. But to Thomas Harrell's point, there's several issues along those lines again that we need to be careful about when you talk about vegetative or earthen barrier. If we're going to allow that choice, then think about who's going to make that choice. Should the ordinance be specific on when one is going to be allowed, or when the other is going to be allowed, or when one is going to be required, or when the other is going to be required? It was the intent of our recommendation to create a visible, if not a physical shield around those fans. Again, not because it's something that's necessary, but again, because we're dealing with perceptions, and a lot of times out of sight is out of mind, so that's kind of what we're thinking of. But do you want to just say, if you say that, do we need to specify that the farmer will decide we will do an earthen berm? Is the grading that is done, is that sufficient? How high does that earthen berm need to be? At what point can I say we're going to do a planted barrier? Can we plant 3-gallon shrubs? Do they have to be 20-gallon shrubs initially? So, and those are kind of things that probably need to be careful of as we address those things. But again, the intent is what I want you to hear. The reality is 300 foot is plenty setback everywhere. We recognize that there's a perception that there's a problem with these fans. So rather than requiring more land, then we want to address that perception with some sort of physical barrier, be it trees or earthen barrier.
Thank you. Does anybody else want to speak? Anybody? We'll close the public forum. We'll come back to special session, and with that, we'll entertain a motion. And the motion is to implement or approve, as it was presented, 1,000-foot setback for the exhaust in or the exhaust side from property line. So with that, I'll open up the floor for a motion or for any discussion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we stay at 300 foot for the berm or vegetation.
You're making a motion that he just presented, the last one that was presented.
Rather than giving up the land, just do the berm.
So I have a motion
It's defective for anything anyway.
that you recognize a 300-foot setback from all property lines, and then have some sort of vegetative or earthen berm or barrier on the fans, or wherever the fans are. Okay. That's the motion.
Fan base. Correct. I second that.
Okay, and I have a second to that. Is there any discussion on that?
Yes, I would like to say something, Chair, if I may. I agree with the vegetative buffer and but I'm not a big fan of the berm. So I look up stuff on science as well, They did a 6-year study, University of Delaware. I'm sure most of you guys, especially in the chicken industry, understand that Delaware is the birthplace of the broiler house. They have 200-foot setbacks up there from dwellings, 50 foot from property lines, and that's who brought them to the dance, and I'm sure they'll take care of them too. But they also have setbacks. But one of the big things that this guy did in his study from Newark, Delaware, they found, because I worry about ammonia, doesn't really travel very far, but when it attaches itself to a piece of dust, it can go pretty far. Okay, I've got friends that live next to chicken houses in Brazelton, and they got those vegetative burns, and those burns are completely white from the dust coming out of those things. Now they're 200 foot from those vegetative buffers, but those vegetative buffers really do their job. Okay, so 56% of total dust gone, 53% of ammonia, and eliminates over 25% of just odor and period. That's with no setback. That's just the chicken house sitting right next to the trees. So if you got your setback and then you put your trees on the outside of that, I really think that's going to take care of our problem. That takes care of perception, because perception is reality for a lot of folks. I don't care how you want to slice that. That's truth. So if we're gonna do this and do it right, I would like to. I don't really want the burn. So if I can make a substitute motion and basically just say I want to take out the burn, and I want to do 3 rows of planted, maintained eastern white pine, eastern red cedar, Leland cypress, or Nellie Stevens holly. Okay, because these are some of the best ones. I got it right here. I'll show it to you. Because those are some of the best ones. Because we have fought about this hard, you know. And I know the farmers are here tonight, but you gotta understand we've got residents out there too. We talked about taxes. Residents, they don't just pay taxes. Some of them are EMS. Some of them are teachers. Some of my favorite people in my life have been my teachers. So yeah, they might not pay as much taxes on their property, but they do provide a service and look after these kids and things like that. So I would say that I don't care about the burn, earth, and burn. I would like to see the 3 rows of planted, maintained eastern white pine, eastern red cedar, Leland cypress, and Nellie Stevens holly. Now that's about as specific as I can be. Chairman, I have to let you talk there. And so, but that would be my motion, Chairman, right now.
That's not really good second. Then I'll ask a question.
Okay, I've got a second that.
I didn't second it.
No, I'm sorry. We got a motion rather that we substitute or he's made a substitute motion for what is in essence the definition that was requested earlier by way of certain types of vegetation, with the provision of removing an earthen berm from consideration. Do I have a second for that? Is there a second?
Can I ask a question? Am I allowed to?
Yes.
I got it. Right. Does it need to be 3 rows?
I'm just going by the this and a couple of studies you can look, just that those 3 rows, offset like that, that seems to be the best when it comes to science, So, but and that's just my motion, and that's just what I'm trying to represent everybody in my district. To be quite frank.
Is there a height that, is there a height of the? Okay.
12 feet.
Leland cypress can make it up 40 feet, but anyway.
There you go.
Hang on, folks, real quick. So let's just clean this up here. I have a motion. Is there a second to that motion presented?
Which motion?
This is just a motion to add more definition to the vegetative barrier and remove the earthen portion or the earthen berm consideration from that. Is there a second?
Mr. Chairman, may I ask for clarification?
Yes, sir.
Y'all follow Robert's Rules of Order?
Well, there's an attempt here.
We have a motion on the floor here. You can't change the motion. Only the guy that made the initial motion can change the motion. Yeah, this was already before that, they voted on before.
He can make a substitute.
He can, and actually, he can make a substitute, and then we'll have to address that one, then we go back to the original one. That's my way of, yeah.
But he needs a second, you know.
Exactly. And I'll, okay, I just wanna make sure. No second? I have no second on that motion. So we're back to the original motion at this point.
Yes, sir.
Now we can discuss that.
Now there's discussion on the original motion.
The reason I was holding off on the trees and, burns are almost instant, trees take years.
Unless you specify how high, I think that's what Mr. Reed was talking about.
That costs a lot of money.
Yeah, that gets spent.
So, well, you know,
So, hang on, so,
It depends, you can't plant something that big in June, July, and it live right out.
I think
It's not that
the,
big, it costs a fortune.
right, I think the general notion with a vegetative berm is you plant when you put your houses out and it grows, and, you know, you get what you get from the growth. I know this is a little bit out of order, I'll take the question real quick, sir. Mr. Moon.
Yeah, I'd like to clarify a thing about earth and burn.
Right,
I've got houses been built a long time.
right.
My land is relatively flat. So when I ask you to think a minute, the more I grade, the more I dig dirt to build a berm, the worse the erosion will be forever. It's gonna be very expensive. Now, the EPA, you gotta file, Mr. Simmer said, you gotta file a plan. And they're gonna cover this erosion, whether you're gonna dig, or you're gonna make it, less offensive as you can.
Right.
So, earth and burn, who's gonna say when to cut the grass, kill the weeds, and do all this stuff? You got some, vegetative, whether it's trees, shrubberies, or whatever, Mr. Martin's gonna give you a call and say you need to cut your grass. Well, I'm not gonna give you chickens, things like that. But earth and burn is that's just totally out the window, being very practical at all. And it's very expensive, and it will not solve the problem of the residents of the county saying that looks good. I think they would like a tree or bush much more important to them than seeing more dirt pile.
And I would just say, if there's an option, you know, I think the original motion is either or and whatever works out. If you're moving dirt from someplace else, you need a place to park it. It might serve as a place, you know. I'm just saying as a possible. Terry, real quick.
Yeah, just as for clarification on our intent on that, quite often with grading, you'll be cutting in field, and you may, as you're just doing your planned grading, you may cut so that as a result of the grading, you have a 10 or 15 foot wall existing there.
Right.
So when you come out and look at it, the zoning administrator, the building inspector say, you know, you've already got a 20 foot bank there, so you would not need vegetated buffers in addition to.
Right.
So that's the kind, it's not so much about building berms, it's the fact that as a result of the grading, this may be sufficient.
No, and I follow that, and I believe that's what Mr. Leahy did, and to some extent, when he moved some of the dirt down there, and that all looks fine too, so we have a current motion on the floor.
That does include burn or.
Yes.
That's up to the landowner.
That's up to the landowner, that's the case.
Exactly. So the motion as it exists right now is, implementation, or keep the 300-foot setback standard with the addition of, vegetative or a natural, I'll call it, open berm. And I have a second. Any other discussion? Where we stop? I think it was Mr. Isco, Commissioner Isco.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
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 Okay. We tiptoe around this next one, but probably we just go ahead and take it on. Let's talk around municipalities. And I appreciate there was no mention or the recommended deletion on the P&Z board, is that correct?
Yes, from the last two
Senate. Okay, so, one of the original items that was presented for consideration was a buffer around a municipality. And what was thrown out there, restricted. So while I appreciate that those numbers may not be defining or what may be ideal, that was just a place to start. Since it was put out there as a mile, and it can be whatever it is, just as the last motion started at 1,000 and ended at 3, just understand for consideration and discussion. The next item will be to consider a buffer, originally put out there as a mile from the municipality, and that was defined from the city limits. And we're going to dispense with the for and against to expedite here, because I'm feeling we probably got more on one side than the other. So, if there's anybody that feels strongly one way or the other, we'll entertain comments on a 1 mile, or what you think it should be, but right now, as opposed to a 1 mile buffer from the city limits in Madison County. For against. We have Mr. Burdett first.
Well, I've got 290 acre farm, and I'm turning 70 next month. And I'm going to be trying to sell my farm, and the highest and best use for it would be a poultry operation, or either, as it is now, a cattle operation. But from the city limits of Comer, you just wipe me out. My potential is gone. So, because it covers 3/4 of that length of the distance of my farm. So it's not only me, there's several others in here that does the exact same thing. So please take that into consideration.
Right.
This is my retirement.
Mr. Whitehead, I'll get you.
Yeah, I want to go
David Whitehead, once again, we are opposed to this because really and truly, if you're going to do this, this is what you would call eminent domain. You're taking people's rights away that's that close, that far away from the city. It barely misses me on my farm, but I do know some other people that have purchased farms that are trying to grow for their family, that this will wipe their success out of what they plan to do with their farm. I think this should be eliminated completely. Thank you.
It's like David just said, and the other gentleman said, that's a huge amount of land, and I don't know that it's just a vote as to what somebody throws a random figure out there. There's no science behind it. There's no planning behind it that I can tell you of. And in one of the other counties, and we just finished recently, what they did is they came up with a planning map, and they've got a corridor of where they expect their growth to be. Of course, on 85, they had this half-mile each side of 85, and they did away with it, so they went to a half-mile radius around every interchange on the interstate, because it's obvious nothing much is coming in on a 10-mile stretch between the two interstate exchanges. But if somehow and it couldn't be done at this meeting. If you had a planning map, like you got the bypass coming in on 72, if that's where you intend for industry to come in, or zone out regions that you have planned for growth. But I don't know, I came to Georgia in 1977, and I don't think Iowa's changed a whole lot since 77 when I drove through it to get to UGA. The corner there might have a different store, but it really hadn't changed all that much. And you throw a mile around that's a huge amount of land. Same way with every one of these towns. That's just I don't know of any other county that has that big of a zone around it. Like I said, Franklin County went to 1,000 feet. So
now this one I've got it in print, but the Oakport uses that.
Well,
I'm just saying. So I mean, that's always some of my credibility. I got that number right.
No, I didn't mean to.
Yeah.
Another problem is a house in the house. I'm trying to say that, and I should have been to more of your planning meetings. But there's a big difference between a 12-house cage layer operation dropping in and a 6-house broiler farm, 4-house pullet farm. Totally different things. So that's something to consider.
I appreciate it. And just for clarification, whether we use or make reference to an existing land use map or the one that's in revision as we speak, both of them are very consistent with, and have been, with a consensus opinion. I'm not talking about a 51%, I'm talking about a large percentage of people that have participated, and one of the mentions is that we identified those cities as growth, and we wanted to build out. We said that whether it be residential or whether it be business or whatever, that's where we actually wanted to see growth. And if you put a chicken house, in reality, nobody's going to come to us and ask me 400 feet from a chicken house. I'm sorry, 300 feet from a chicken house. That's the reality. So, all I'm saying is there is merit for consideration. A mile, tell me what the number is. Tell me feet. I'm just saying that is consistent with our land use plan. A mile was a number, and there are other numbers that I'm sure would work better. But I'm just saying that's the part that this is what this discussion is supposed to provide. So, anybody else want to speak one way or the other? Please, sir, come on.
My name's Marty Tucker. I live in Carlton. Been there all my life. They've been redoing 72. So in my opinion, the growth is going to leave the city of Carlton. And there's some land that I would like to purchase and put chicken houses on, but if this goes through, I won't be able to do it. So I think a mile from the city limits is out of the question in my city.
Understand. Yes, sir.
Wesley Chandler, 1300 Channel Farm Road. Got about one of the larger pieces of property in the county, over the island. If you took my farm, and this is all about impacting other people when you build a poker house, I mean, it's obvious what it's about. If you took my farm and you took a mile, you'd actually, if I got outside of that mile and built poker houses on my farm, it would impact more people than it would if I got within that mile of the city of Island, the way my farm lays. So I think you cannot just say a mile is going to do that job. We've suggested as Farm Bureau that you do 600 feet from a school. Basically, I think that would be satisfactory for a city because you're tripling the 200-foot mark that scientific data has told you that nothing leaves the farm that's harmful to any human. So you're tripling it at 600 feet. So I suggest 600 feet.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Stephen, I'll come back to you next, sir.
You consider how far is it from city limit from Isles to Dansville? It's less than 4 miles from red light to red light. So it's less than 4 miles. You take a mile, that means you got 2 miles right in the dead center. It's the only place chicken houses go. Carver, Comer's the same thing. You living it, you're probably cutting out over half the county by doing it a mile. I mean, 600 foot would be more than enough. And then what sides is, if Danielsville sides, they want to annex and move a little bit further out. Commerce, they annex, they annex and extend the city limits. So what if they decide they want to extend it out? That's going to put that even further out.
It's like Tomer with bypass. If they were to annex the bypass and stuff, you got an extra.
Mm-hmm.
You got to there too.
So look how much further that is. I mean, you're going to do away with a tremendous amount of property. A little food for thought. Fight against this consequences.
Right. I'm eating the food here. Yes, sir.
My name's Dave Stewart. I'm 1801 Newtown Church Road in Carlton. I don't have a dog in this fight. I don't have any chicken houses. Don't plan to build any chicken houses, but I do more support the farmers in this county. Our number one industry in the county is chickens. And I'm very concerned that we're trying to limit them and what we're trying to do. We're trying to cut off our number one industry if we're not careful. I think a mile is excessive. I'm just outside the city limits, just outside the mile. It wouldn't affect me either way. But I think that's really excessive for our rural area that we're in. And I just like to consider that. I like the 600 feet myself, but I may be way under. But I just want to say, I think we need to be very, very careful. I appreciate, guys, what you're doing. Appreciate you looking at other counties and what they're doing. But we live in Madison County. And I appreciate what the other counties do. But we've got to decide for ourselves what we want to do so that we can live here in our county and be satisfied with the decisions that we make so we can live with them. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Let's move.
Dennis Moon, I live in edge of Colbert, farms between Colbert and Comer. I didn't know this afternoon that this was affecting me. Most of them probably think I'm way outside the city limits. My property is exactly 9/10 of a mile from city limits of Colbert. I've been there a long, long time. One side of my property, the major long side of it, is a railroad track. So, who's going to put a subdivision, or I could put a subdivision or sell it to anybody in their right mind? It's suitable for farming. I've got poultry houses, my son's got poultry houses there. We've got room to expand. Are you going to say, I call it eminent domain, you're going to say that we can't expand? Are you going to grandfather me in, let me build some more? Or am I going to have to come over here and ask for a variance? If you pass this, you're going to be, you open a can of worms that you ain't never seen. People that are going to oppose to it, they're going to come over here and ask for variances. Just simplify it, make it realistic. And I think most everybody in the county could live with it if it's real, okay? My son has acquired a piece of property in Comer. Before all this come up, he didn't realize the city limits runs through the property. He's got 350 acres. What you gonna do there? You're gonna deny him use of his property and it's a farm? You're gonna deny him use of his, just because city limits is that close? There are no dwelling houses. There are no, well, there's one or two, but they own 15 to 20 acres with horses. So he owns on both sides of the city limits. There's a variance coming there one of these days when he decides if his son gets old enough to have some poultry houses property, or cattle, or pasture. So, man, we need to simplify this thing and not overshoot and overdo, or we're going to have hell to pay in the near future to adjust this thing. We don't need more adjustments. I hate to come over here and hear variances, variances, variances every time. I know you get tired of hearing. So can we simplify it and get it down where we can live with it? And each county, each town, and each area is somewhat different. Hull is totally different from anybody else. You know that. And that's where we've already said Hull needs all the dwelling houses. Comer, Carlton, Danesville, all it's country, and you got farmland, I dare say, in guessing, farmland in some form or another, may not be a poultry house, but it's cattle, horse farms, and other things agriculture related that are touching or inside the city limits as we speak tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I feel like I'm taking my life in my hands, even standing up with this group behind me. I will say that I went to college on 2 laying-in houses, so I've been there. I'm bothered by trying to pass a zoning ordinance that puts a mile limit as or any kind of limit as a definite thing around towns, because you've got to look at how it's going to grow and where it's going to grow and where it needs to grow. And that, I thought that's what this long-range plan that we're working on was doing. And I wonder why you're passing zoning before you get your long-range plan figured out. That's all I'll say.
Thank you. Anybody? Come on, please.
I'm not standing up for or against the mile. Since we're putting food for thought, I'm going to lay out a little food for thought. And the farmers have really turned out tonight, which they should have. I haven't seen a whole lot of just residential folks that showed up tonight. Maybe it's not important to them. But the thing that I wanted to say to you all is that as you're making your decision, think about all people. Try to make your regulations and your rules that will fit all people. Because everybody doesn't farm, but yet they're residents of Madison County, and they pay taxes in Madison County. So make your decision not because of the crowd that showed up tonight, but make your decision based on what's going to be the best thing for all people that live in Madison County.
Thank you. Everybody else?
I got a question.
Actually, to Mr. Moore here, when chicken houses stop being built in the county, can I ask him a question?
Be real quick, yeah. Go ahead.
When chicken houses stop being built in the county, what happens to property values? What happens to people moving into the county?
What's driving the property values up is these chicken houses coming in after this recession. There's a big enough tract of land to put chickens on, the price jumped up.
Anybody else?
Put my 2 cents worth. This 1 mile limit from Danielsville will not affect our poultry operation in one way or the other. But why not let each town decide what they want to do with their city limits? I'm under understanding that the city of Comer is going to extend their city limits and take in the bypass.
That's what I've heard. That's food for thought again.
Well, I've been here in the county 60-something years, and my dad always said the city of Comer, slow down when you go through, because that's the only way they make money, is taxing all the speeders and people that run stop signs. So you got a 4-lane highway, city of Comer annexes it in, the mileage speed limit drops to 45. Out in the country, the speed limit is going to be 65. So who's going to be paying for that extension of the city limit sign? So, I mean, just think about it. Let each town decide their city limits instead of the county deciding what's best use for that property. You know, I personally think I bought the property, I pay taxes on it. If I don't pay the taxes, the county takes it away from me and sells it. So, you know, we're really not a free country. I just rent the property from the county. But think about it. If I buy the property, I pay the taxes on it, I ought to think about what's the best use for me. Because most farmers are good stewards of the land. I'd say 90% of them. But like all across the country, most farmers are getting to be my age or close to it. My son will never come back to the farm. My daughter will never come back to the farm. My son works in San Antonio, Texas. He wears a lab coat to work. He makes a hell of a lot more money than I ever thought about making, just showing up for a 40-hour week. You know, he didn't grow up on the farm. His mother and I divorced. So he doesn't have the attachment to the land like a lot of us do. You know, my great-great-grandfather was Bennett Simmons. Him and his brother owned 800 acres right down here where Doc Power lived. My grandfather, Joseph Lumpkin Simmons, had a gin, a cotton gin, right there where Doc Power's property is now, years ago. My grandfather started farming in 1913, right where my brother lives in the home place. So after my brother and I are gone, I mean, we don't know what's going to happen to the property. Don't know whether his kids can have enough interest in it to manage it. They might like it, you know, farming is just like an asset-rich business that's cash-strapped poor. You know, to farm or cattle ranch or poultry housing takes a lot of investment to make a little money. The money is in the property and the buildings, or in the cattle ranch, it's in the cows. A dairy farm, the money's in the cows. A lot of people just look at, oh, you got 12 chicken houses, you got 200 head of cows, you got 500 acres of land. Yeah, that's asset rich. But what does it do, what does it take to make those 12 chicken houses produce, those 200 head of cows produce calves? We were in the grading business for 45 years. I could bid a job, I knew what the profit was. Chicken houses are the same way for a farmer. He knows what the profit's going to be. It's there. All he's got to do is grow the chickens. They bring you the chicks, they bring you the feed. Mr. Martin sends a crew out there to catch them. The farmer doesn't have to do anything, provide the building, the water, and the labor to look after them. After you get them paid for, there's money to be made in the chicken business. But right now, all your assets are tied up in property and buildings. And if you take that away from the farmers, I mean, what you going to do with the property? My way of thinking in my lifetime, or my son's lifetime, there'll never be a Mercedes-Benz or a BMW factory built here in this county. There'll never be a Walmart built here.
You know, the only way we get a Walmart here is rooftops. And all the projections that we have is the more rooftops we get, the more it takes the county to operate. The rooftops don't pay for the schools, the roads, and all of that. So I ask you to be considerate about this 1 mile buffer from towns. You're taking away a lot of people's opportunity to sell their property, or like Gary said, that's his retirement. Dennis's son, he wants to expand his poultry operation, but if you take that mile buffer and implement it, then you take that opportunity away from him. Appreciate your consideration.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Just a point of clarification, the way that is written, already is read, no poultry or hog farms shall be located within 1 mile. So does that mean any part of a property which is within that 1 mile radius, the way it's stated, then all of that property would be excluded from intensive agricultural use?
And as I understand it, it was actually, as it related to the poultry houses themselves. And I understand it's a little vague, no poultry or hog farm. I don't think at any point in time you could tell somebody they can't have part of their property, you know, outside or that would be viable. Whatever the buffer might be, if it's outside of that, it's outside of that. I mean, I'm sure, and if we need to wordsmith that to reflect that. I think it's just like anything else. If you had existing, and this discussion came up, I believe, at the P&Z meeting, planning and zoning meeting, is that, you know, if you have houses that are there, you know, it would only pertain to those new houses being built at that point. So, you know, same part of the farm, whatever, if it's outside that area, then I would, you know, I'm satisfied that would meet that restriction as well. Any other comments? We'll close the public portion of this and open a special session, and this is just to deal specifically with a buffer around municipalities. And again, the starting number was a mile. Looking for a motion, suggestion, whatever the board thinks is here.
Mr. Chairman, I make the motion that we strike any barrier around the cities.
I have a motion to eliminate any buffer around municipalities. I have a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, I'll say something, Chairman. I thought about this one because this is probably the one that's got the most contention attached to it. And the more I think about it, the more we talk about land use plan and things like that, you know, if we stick to our land use plan, especially the one that's about to come out, I believe that's enough protection for the cities if we stick to that land use plan. And that's you know, to the rest of the board. You know, if we stick to that land use plan, I think that the 1 mile around municipality is a little redundant. So that land use plan, like people keep talking about, if that land use plan is, and we're going to stick to it, I think that land use plan is going to take care of that. The setbacks that I really was vegetative buffers and things like that. But this right here, like I said, I just really think that this is going to be taken care of with our new land use plan if we stick with it. You know, if somebody's already got a name on a piece of property, they don't have to come ask us for anything anyway. And if that's the highest and best use for that property, we'll rezone it because that's the highest and best use, and it goes along with our land use plan. If not, it won't get rezoned, and then we'll have the chicken houses on it. Because we stick to the land use plan and our planning that we have been doing.
I add that, you know, as it's written, if it were to come up in a place that we as commissioners deem that not appropriate, well, then we do have the ability then to strike it down. Correct? As far as the rezoning goes.
Sure.
Without litigation or wait, I shouldn't say without litigation or without being on the losing end of litigation.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, your land use plan is supposed to be one of your primary considerations every time you hear a rezone request.
So, and that's just another reason we need to make sure we get that land use plan.
So a motion and a second to strike it. Is there any other discussion? Commissioner Allen?
This is to strike?
This is to strike it?
Yes.
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 We're getting close here, folks. This was mentioned, we never actually voted on this. I think it merits formal consideration, and that was a setback from schools, public buildings. And I'm trying to think of the actual language. It was schools, public buildings.
Mr. Martin read off a nice
Yeah.
thing there a while ago. We covered them all.
Yeah, I should have brought that in here, though. I didn't have
Restaurants.
What's that? Yeah, it's.
Sure got that?
It was built.
Yeah, that list.
You want me to read it, you want to give it to John?
I just want to capture and it doesn't, we don't need a laundry list. I want to make sure that we capture the importance of a distance from a school. We need to preserve certain boundaries and distances from, whether it's schools, churches. I think it was one of the ones you mentioned.
Yeah, schools, churches, nursing homes, community centers. I can bring it up to you, if you read it if you want. It may not be the exact wording that you've got in yours.
No, well, that's just it. I tell you what I'll do.
Is it from the property line of the building, or is it from the building?
Should be from the building, right? I would say from the building.
Mr. Chairman.
Please.
I know there are concerns from planning and zoning about with the church situation is how do you define a house of worship?
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're going to try to rezone a piece of property for poultry houses, somebody gets wind of it, all of a sudden they have a home church group in their house, you know, so how do you get specific? Do you say an existing church building?
Do we have any board of assessors members?
Yeah. And again, I would think that what we talked about was consideration to an existing facility. I mean, if it's recognized and it's existing, then it would, but to
just clarification.
Yeah, to bring it in afterwards or whatever, then I take the zoning takes precedent over that, though. So schools, churches. Okay. So what was mentioned, there was a 600-foot setback from schools, churches, nursing homes, businesses, municipal buildings, basically. And we could be here all night listing other businesses and everything, but the intent, I think, is to make sure that we're trying to preserve a little bit of space and everything for those where, in large measure, people gather. Is the common bond there. So what I'd like to do is just hear thoughts, pro, con, for, against a 600-foot setback from schools, churches, nursing homes, businesses, municipal buildings. Anybody at all? You got 2 more cents?
We got 2 more cents. The 600-foot, I'd like it to be clarified that is to the actual closest part of a chicken house or poultry building, not to the property line, but to the actual, just like the 300-foot setback.
I think that's what was implied when you said 300 feet. The distinction earlier with a 300 foot from a property line, this is actually from a building, because again,
it'd be from the nearest point of the school or church
to the poultry house.
School, church, and nursing home would be fine with me. Don't include anybody else.
Municipal buildings?
No.
I'd argue that one.
Most municipal buildings are going to be in town.
Right. No, and I take that, it's just, and if that's the case, then it would be a moot point anyhow. I don't know how putting it in there would be harmful. I'm looking at an occasional circumstance that may exist that I want to protect from that right now, though. If a municipal building goes in after the fact, then I'm saying the poultry house would have precedence over that. I mean, it's there, it's existing. So I don't see how that.
Well, we can agree to disagree on that.
Okay. But we got 2.5 hours of that already, so we're in good shape. That's all right. And it's not disagreement. It's not disagreement. It's
From the nearest point of a school, church, or a building, or nursing home, to the nearest point of the poultry house.
Correct.
Do we have to say anything, Chairman, to make that go the opposite way? Because they are right. You know, it does need to go both ways. You know, whoever's there first, you know, whoever comes second needs to abide by those.
Yeah, if it's
you know, that is reciprocal. That is.
Yeah, the poultry
I don't
house.
think anybody say that.
Poultry house or the hog parlor's there first, you know.
Right, totally agree.
You know, you need to, just the property owner, all they have to abide by the same. Yes, sir. Right, sir. Thank you.
We can already agree on that.
Okay.
Any other discussion on that? Folks, the intent is to put things back in business tonight, and I got about 3 hours to do that and get it out there before somebody builds within 400 feet of it. So my real emphasis here, though, is to make sure that we put these things in place, or we agree on them, and then we start this and move on, though. So I'm trying, you know, this is, you know, if we're able to make these things work or whatever, we stop things for a while, we have the opportunity to work them a little bit, and then we'll put it back in motion. But that's the whole reason for wanting to cover these. Close the public meeting, come back for a special session here, and we'll entertain a motion to put in place a 600-foot setback. And we'll make sure the language reflects the actual poultry house to the actual building, whether it's a school, church, nursing home, business, municipal building. Or we didn't, actually business comes out of there, I'm sorry, said we wouldn't do that. Municipal building, no.
Do we have to say 600? Would you mind saying 800?
I'm looking for a motion, if you can get a second and a vote on that.
I'd like to make a motion to make it 800 feet.
Okay, a motion for 800 feet from a poultry house to a school, church, nursing home, and municipal building. Do I have a second?
I'll second that. Move it off that.
I have a second. Discussion on that. Any discussion on
that? I really wanted the business in there. But take the business out, you know, which I guess that's our promotion, so I was trying to talk about that.
You got people like Jeff.
There may be businesses that are co-located or operated, you know,
that makes sense.
In close, by nature of their business might, you don't want to rule them out. So, any other discussion? This is 800 feet now, from school to these buildings we listed. Is there any other discussion?
The big problem there in Iowa, I believe that spurred some of this was more, it had to do with not really smell, I don't think, but really more traffic and stuff like that, because they put the houses so close to Alva Elementary. And so, you know, you got those big trucks going right down through there, and I really want to make sure that doesn't happen again. We've got, most of the schools are inside the city limits. I think Old Sanford is out.
Any other discussion then? Commissioner Strickland?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Folks, that was 800 feet from that particular building. There was one last one with regard to poultry houses that was covered by the planning and zoning board. And this will be the last on this, and if nobody has any problems after this one, we'll probably take a little bit of a break here to gather our thoughts. If adjoining property is A2, R1, R2, R3, RR, there will be a vegetative barrier between those properties. Is there any discussion on that? Anybody speaking for or against that?
Oh, there only,
No, go ahead, I'm sorry, I got two. I thought I saw it. You go ahead, you go ahead.
You're pretty smart. It just seems like that's kind of being covered already, so.
But look, I think it was
Yeah, I think it's been covered, I just think y'all strike that.
Okay. Is that your, got them? Real quickly, I just want to make sure, is this point of clarification here on Mar 2 for that? I just want to make, I might have misspoke
The one amendment we talked about where we, approved a 300-foot setback with a vegetative or earthen berm, wouldn't that, basically nullify that amendment?
Is everybody satisfied with that?
Yes, sir, yes, sir.
All right.
One question, Mr. Chairman.
Please.
The board did not, specify what vegetative barrier is other than what Mr. Howley mentioned about the 3 rows of trees. You know, could be a little corner.
A potted plan or a...
Yeah, I mean, if it's not specified.
And I'll be called on that.
Is that something we need to make a definition for? And put in our definitions? Is that something that would be in there? And it's just me asking.
Yeah.
You know, what is the definition of a vegetative buffer? I would think that'd probably be what we need.
Well, you're gonna find out, water runs from the front of the chicken house, post house, to the back. Under the, I think Paul is greater. The EPA, EPD plan of erosion control is gonna cover a lot of that stuff, right? We'll follow that. Yeah, it's all gonna cover that, so it's not gonna have to be regulated by the county. Now, planting of trees or whatever, they gonna ask for vegetation too, right? Yep. You got to have a erosion control plan. Under that plan, on the blueprint, you're gonna cover all that stuff before you get a building permit.
They don't require trees.
They require grass. Grass, okay. We're gonna have some trees, something big enough to contain the feathers and whatever might go through it.
Just remember, we are a home rule state. The state that always do regulations, they kind of leave it open sometimes to the counties to,
Well, and what we can do is in the interest of, putting in place a mention of a vegetative barrier or earthen berm. If it becomes problematic, the board can at any time come back and place a definition on that, and we can implement it, just as, like I said, whether through, internally or whatever.
I know I'll be asked, what do you mean by vegetative? And I'm going, well, it's specified.
I think you need to have it on the front,
Right.
Tell them just do what they think's best.
That's a thought, but I think we need to, and I don't want to beat this to death. I think most commonly used in this area, when you're looking for, and I say hardy, they're at least easily replaced, or Leland cypress or something of that variant. But if we, get into specifying or identifying particular trees or whatever, that's a little bit, now I really do think I'm, doing home and gardening or something for the county. I think if we specify, a width of, trees to, whether we want to say to exceed, not to exceed a certain,
Would it be a staggered planting?
I would. I have a privacy fence with Leland cypress, and they're staggered, and they do just fine. And it's, you know, and it's, you plan when you forget
Then they're
about it.
gonna wanna know, okay, how tall, 3 foot, 6 foot, 12 foot.
I wouldn't even say how tall, I'd say a 3 gallon or something, because they're gonna grow, you know.
If you talk to the Extension Service, you probably find information out there readily.
Yeah.
It's all over the United States, they use trees or barriers on farms, for wind breaks and other purposes. The information's out there.
Right. I tell you what we'll do, and and we'll try to do it in short order. We will, I think we can do this with a definition of vegetative barrier. And what I propose is first thing in the morning, we'll get a definition before we put this in place. How about that?
Good.
Is that okay with everybody? I think we can do this, and it'll be on the order of some sort of tree and specify, you know.
I got plenty of work. If you want to save some time, go to Hart County's rigs in the internet, and they've got a vegetative barrier. It's 2 rows of Leland cypress, 20 feet on center, offsetting plantings, size of the tree.
There you have it.
Sounds good.
I like plagiarism. They got it.
Yeah.
Chairman Charles.
Yes, sir.
I'd rather that you call it a vegetative buffer than a barrier.
Sure.
I mean, just nitpicking, but.
Yeah, and that's fine. I'm happy to glad. Okay, Mr. Houston, did that take care of the poultry?
One more service, being 400 feet from any residence other than what is on the property as currently stated in the zoning.
Well, that's on property line, but he's talking about for a resident. Somebody actually on a property line, that would be problematic, so.
Set back for a house on property line, 25 feet, 50 feet.
Yeah.
It's
Like
15.
15,
So 315 feet.
400 is what's in there, what has been in there.
And planning zoning was okay with 400, right? Correct? Yes. So for me as well.
So that's existing. That's easy. No change on that, then. Is there anything else regarding poultry operations or poultry regulations?
You might want to go ahead and address that specifically, because in the commissioner's recommendation, it was 600, planning and zoning said recommended 4.
So what we'll do, so we have the motion will be to remain, to leave it at its current 400 feet setback from an existing residence. Does anybody have any comment for or against on that? I don't want to water this down. If anybody has a concern or whatever, please let us know. It's currently 400 feet. We're going to leave it that way, but because there was an item of discussion, we want to make sure we close it out. So if anybody has any comment for or against 400 feet from an existing residence.
Move on with a question.
Yeah. Anything at all? Hearing none, we'll close the vote. Open up a special session. The motion would be, actually, it doesn't even require a motion.
Well, I think it does. Assuming we're still working on this proposal, I think Mr. Chandler's right, that was kind of going on together with the property line before, so.
Okay. So, the motion would be the motion would be to keep the 400-foot setback from an existing residence. Right. I have a second. Any discussion on that? Commissioner Bettis?
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes. Okay. That close that out?
Should have it clarified as an existing occupied dwelling instead of just plain residence.
I don't know, because, I mean, it may be might be their summer home.
That's right.
I mean, if it's a summer home, it's still occupied. It may be a vacant house.
Abandoned house.
Inhabitable, is that okay?
I think it said inhabitable first.
Okay, we'll add the word inhabitable. How about that? Is everybody okay with that? I know after our vote here, but, okay. We have some other zoning amendments, but they're text amendments. What I suggest is unless anybody has an objection, we're going to take we're going to Yeah, that'll come back.
I've got one more, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, yeah, what about acreage? Oh, I'm sorry, we did have an acreage. Yes. You got it.
Okay, the next one deals with section 7.1.1.21, is to be added to read as follows. No parcels shall be rezoned to A1 unless the total acreage or combined acreage equals 50 acres or more. The vote of the Planning and Zoning Commission was 7-0 to change that to 25 acres versus 50 acres. Vote was 7-0 to approve that.
Okay. Is there anybody who would like to speak in favor or opposition? As it's currently listed as 50 acres, and understanding that Planning and Zoning has recommended 25. Anybody at all? For or against? All right, that was easy. We'll close the public, open up the special session. Need a motion whether it's currently listed at 50. Recommended by the initial recommendation was 50. Planning and Zoning has recommended 25 acres as a minimum parcel size that can be rezoned A1. Is there any motion?
Motion to do 25.
So I have a motion and a second stating no parcel shall be rezoned A1 unless the total acres or combined acreage equals 25 acres. Any discussion?
You know, we talked about it here, and 50 was kind of at the top. We talked about 30. I think 25 is a great compromise. Just throwing that out, I think that's good.
25.
Because where it's sitting right now, 5 acres. I know you can grow strawberries. I think Mr. Wesley told me, on 5 acres intensive farming, but, that does need to go up, but I can definitely support 25 acres over 30. Yeah, it's a good compromise.
Okay. Any discussion? Commissioner Bettis?
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes. All right. Still got one more. Oh my goodness.
Next item is section 7.1.1.22, added to read as follows. A1 parcels that sit idle from intensive operations for 12 months will revert or be rezoned to A2 property. Planning and Zoning Commission recommended that this not be changed by a vote of 7-0, or this not be added by a vote of 7-0.
Not be added.
I think some of the stuff they talked about too was go ahead.
So the item is A1 parcels that sit idle from intensive operations. There was some discussion whether that meant following a recent rezone to A1. The way it reads is A1 parcels that sit idle, no activity from intensive operations for 12 months will revert or be rezoned to A2. Any discussion on that?
Yeah, when we made the recommendation from Paul Bureau, actually the Planning and Zoning took it one step further. The recommendation from Paul Bureau was to make sure that it was as intended to be on parcels that are rezoned to A1, planning some intensive activity. Then if activity did not occur within a year, then it go back to A2. The commissioners had the option, not mandatory, but had the option. And the Planning Commission took it a step further and just recommended leaving the whole thing.
Okay, very good. So again, the initial thought then was that it could, after 12 months, after a recent rezone, be reverted back or rezoned to A2.
Be considered for such.
Be considered, exactly, yeah. So, again, what is on the table right now, hearing the clarification and the consideration here, is that any A1 parcel that sits idle from intensive operations for 12 months will revert or be rezoned to A2. Any comments, any?
I don't understand what are you saying that it will revert back or it won't?
Well, the way it says is will. Now, that's what's being considered. We're also, it has to do with the considerations like Terry just pointed out, said it can, at the discretion, can revert back or be considered for rezoning. So that's for our consideration, but I guess what I'm saying is, yes, your interpretation was correct on the way it was written. It says idle for 12 months, it will revert or be rezoned to A2.
My question is, I have three A1 zone properties now that are, because of dividing up our mother and dad's estate. And the poultry operation is on a separate piece of property that is zoned A1. But what I'm asking is that I have a brick house that my mother and dad lived in, is zoned A1 and it's 5 acres. I have a mobile home adjacent to it, is zoned A1, has a 6.7 acre parcel. Next to that, I have a 53 acre parcel that was part of the estate that was divided up. It's zoned A1 now. Are you saying that if I don't do any intensive agriculture with any one of those A1 parcels, then it automatically reverts back to A2?
That is what is being considered here. Yes, sir. What you just captured is...
Well, why not add in there, if you revert it back to A2, then I get a 50% reduction in property taxes? Because the 53 acre tract is the only one that's big enough to build a poultry house on.
Right. And I think the intent behind this, just so you're clear, is almost to the scenario you just presented, except there are many 1.5, 2 acre lots out there that are currently zoned A1.
Well, part of the reason, my brother has a tract across the road that he put a house on there for his son.
Right.
That was in 1999. My dad wanted to cut off 5 acres and put the house there. The A1 zone said you can only have one house per 25 acres.
Right.
So that house is now on a 25 acre lot. And then a couple of years later, the zoning was changed to A1 5 acre lot.
Right.
So now you're coming along and wanting to say that if you don't use A1 for intensive agriculture, then it's got to go to A2.
I think what they just got you saying is, that don't exist. You're talking about something, they say wipe out.
Yeah, so if that's your comment and that you're recommending that it perhaps go along with something that Terry mentioned.
Only currently rezoned A1.
That was his comment, correct?
Okay.
And it wasn't, his comment was that it not necessarily be automatic, that it may be considered.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
The planning and zoning considered that and said, what difference does it make? A1 is still, it's sitting there, A1. If anybody wanted to rezone, then they can come in and apply for a rezone. That was the thinking of the planning and zoning.
I think it's a little redundant, again,
That's what I was telling y'all a while ago, I got clipped for $185,000 because I was out of business for 12 months. We're gonna do that.
That's what we're done with.
So what I want to do is just make sure we stay on. I know that the longer we do this, it gets harder and harder to do, but anybody else want to speak on an A1 parcel that sits idle from intensive operation for 12 months being reverted or rezoned, or that would revert or be rezoned to A2? Any other discussion on that? I mean, we've heard what you said already, so I'm just saying, is there any other discussion on that? Close the public forum. We'll come back for a special session here and entertain a motion as it pertains to A1 parcel sitting idle from intensive operations for 12 months, reverting or being rezoned to A2 property.
Motion to delete that.
I have a motion to delete that. Second? Second. I have a second. Is there any discussion on that?
For various reasons, people can be out of business for over 12 months and then try to come back.
I knew you were going to get that one.
All right. Any other discussion?
The whole thing behind that was that, if you talk to some of the chicken farmers, a lot of times it takes more than 12 months to even get this stuff moving and your EPD and all that stuff going. And then on the other side of that, us as a board, at any time, I believe, and please, Mike, tell me if I'm wrong, but we can go back and look at those individual properties and rezone those without application. The ones that are 1.3 acres and they're A1, that's been A1 since 70-something, we can go back and do that. If we wanted to look at that, if we really want to get serious about this issue, we can go back and do that without any kind of application or anything like that. Because we do have a lot of A1 properties. There's a subdivision in my district over there. It's a subdivision, and it's all A1 except for 2 pieces of property. So, and nothing's over 3 acres. So, and that might be something we need to look at later. So that's my 2 cents.
2 more cents. All right. We have a motion and a second to delete from consideration the notion that an A1 parcel that sits idle from intent to operate for 12 months will revert or be rezoned. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Commissioner Huffle.
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, there was one more. But
And he's correct, folks, I didn't get to that last page, he's not making it up, I got it.
But a recommended adding a section that states there will be no rezoned A1 within the residential or commercial character area of the land use map. This was discussed by the Planning and Zoning Commission, and we voted 7-0 to table that until the new land use map is approved. So.
I copy that. So.
Land use map should take care of that.
Right. And at any point in the future, if there's any consideration as it's presented here, the Planning and Zoning Board has recommended that until that time that the revised land use map is made available, then we will take under consideration whether or not to rezone A1 within residential or commercial character of areas of the land use map. So any discussion on that? We're in the process right now, working with BCA and working with our regional commission and trying to get input from our cities right now. That's a bit of a struggle. So as we complete that, though, we'll have a comprehensive plan and a land use map, and we'll go back and revisit that as the recommendation. Is there any discussion, any comments on this? Any at all? All right, we'll close the public meeting and open up a special session to entertain a motion. As it's currently written, there will be no rezone to A1 within residential or commercial character areas on the land use map. And again, you've heard the recommendation of the Planning and Zoning Board. Do I have a motion?
Motion to table.
I have a motion to table this item.
Second.
I have a second. Is there any discussion on that? Commissioner Easko?
Yes.
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 Very well. That takes care of everything we were going to entertain for subdivision and poultry. We do have some administrative zoning and ordinance cleanup here, but what I'm going to recommend is we take a few minutes, perhaps till 25 after. That'll give everybody, if you choose to go ahead and leave. I know, fellas, y'all been here a while. If y'all want to go ahead and swap seats and everything, we'll meet back and we'll try to finish this up here when we return, okay? Usually back to the seats here for those that want to be a part of this. We're going to go ahead and try to finish up certainly we're going to finish up everything.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask Lamar Houston then to come in. We're going to go back through the text amendments we need to get through. And before we do this, Lamar, There were several the other night, there were consent items, there were several, was it the transmission
Yes,
tower?
sir, it was a transmission tower where it took 4 or 5 of them and did it at one time.
Okay, that would be my preference tonight too, if we can do that, sir. So please go ahead if you'd like.
The first one is, has to do with definitions for the planning and zoning ordinances and stuff. It's about 39 pages, 40 pages of definitions. Linda has spent quite a bit of time clarifying some of the definitions that's in our ordinances and stuff. She even added pictures for some of them, so that it gives kind of examples of what we had. The vote of the Planning and Zoning Board was 6 to approve these definitions with 1 abstention.
Okay.
I would never.
And because these are changes to ordinances, we still have to follow the same protocol, but what I'm going to do, and again, in the interest of expediting, or not expediting, but simplifying, for anybody that likes to speak, whether it's for or against, we'll take the comments in whatever order that you'd like to present them. And again, at this time, is there anybody that would like to speak for or against the approval of these definitions? And I make one editorial comment here. This is one of the more important things we're doing tonight, by the way. It's not defined, much like we just talked about vegetative buffer. I mean, there's a lot of interpretations, and we've already had a number of cases where a definition would have really helped us out. So, again, anybody like to speak? Last call. Okay, close the public meeting, special session here to entertain a motion on approving Article 3, which is the definition of terms.
Let me ask the marshal, this one, that's what you have to come, right? Yes, it's to come. Okay, this one. Okay.
Okay.
You'll be good now. You want to wake me up when that comes up.
Okay. Do I have a motion to accept or to amend? I'm sorry, we're actually amending Article 3, which is the definition of terms.
Motion to approve the definitions.
Okay, I have a motion to...
40 pages.
Okay, I have a second. Second, any discussion? I believe the vote was to Commissioner Pepple.
Yes.
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 Very good.
I did see a few typos. I know you're probably being a teacher, but I know you've probably seen them, but I'll just forward them to what I saw.
I think Lamar's already.
Okay, great.
Okay, the next one has to add a section 4.6 to Article 4 to read as follows. And it talks about the interpretation of uses. And I won't go into the whole thing, but it just kind of gives guidelines and guidance as to the different interpretations of the different variations of names given to businesses and different things like that. And references the North American Industrial Classification Systems published by the U.S. Department of Commerce, stating it may be referred to in order to interpret the definition of uses as listed in Article 7. The Planning and Zoning Commission voted 7-0 to recommend approval.
All right. So is there anybody that'd like to speak for or against including Section 4.6, interpretation of uses? I know Mark just said it in a different way, but again, in those cases where something may be ill-defined or simply lacking, this gives us the latitude to go to other sources, recognized sources, as much as any ICS for clarification or use of those definitions they use. So, any comment on that? Seeing that, we'll go ahead and close the public meeting and special session to consider adding section 4.6, interpretation of uses.
Mike, have you looked at all these?
Yeah, I actually wrote that 4.6, and most of it came from the Oconee County ordinance.
Did you look at, number 4? Page 2?
I think we're only doing item 4.6 right now.
Yeah, so, yeah.
Got that right. I'm a vegetarian. I've been sitting here talking about chickens all night. I've been eating chicken in 45 years. I got a tomato sandwich waiting on me at home.
Maybe 2.
Yeah, 2. I don't know if it gets past midnight. I may just go straight to leave. I'll make a motion to do this 4.6.
I have a motion to add 4.6 to Article 4.
Second.
I have a second. Any discussion? Seeing none. Commissioner Isco?
Yes.
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 Very good. Next one there, sir.
Okay, the next one is item 2 on the same page. It adds a section 4.7 to Article 4 to read as follows, and it talks about prohibited uses. That the following uses are prohibited in all zoning districts in Madison County. And it lists quite a few specific type of businesses and activities that are prohibited in the county. Planning and Zoning Commission discussed this, and we voted 7-0 to table this so we could have more discussions on it. Because this was one of those that we got, and
Was it primarily because of the inclusion or exclusion of certain ones on that? I mean, there are some on there that I was part of, or I listened.
that was some of the concerns, yes, sir.
Okay.
And we just didn't, it wasn't the time to go into the discussions on that.
Okay.
And 7-0 to
table. Okay. So is there anybody here that would like to speak for or against, as is presented, adding section 4.7 to Article 4 entitled Prohibited Uses? Anybody at all? Seeing none, we'll close the public meeting. Open a special session to consider adding section 4.7 to Article 4 with the recommendation by the Planning and Zoning Board that they table that.
I definitely make a motion to table this and
Have a motion to table. And a second.
Second.
I have a second. Any discussion?
Why'd you want to table it? I'm just curious. I'm not trying to start. I promise I'm not. I'm just curious.
I'm trying to get around having to ask the question or answer the question. I think they need to table it.
I'll tell you, you were there at that meeting. We went, and there were certain items on here, for instance, that the comments were brought up that they weren't sure that these really need to be prohibited.
Right, yes. Okay, that's where I want to go as far as the tavern. I think Noah said something about that, and somebody else said something about this.
Yeah, so let and, there's some things.
That's right, there were several that we felt,
Okay.
we
I just
felt
wanna
like
make sure.
probably need to be able to exclude this.
Right. Okay, I just
I was
wanted to
hoping
that was, okay.
But just so y'all know, this list is from Oconee County.
Right.
So, and I think it's important, as a comment was made a while ago, while many things are good on this list, or they merit consideration, the variations in the counties and everything might warrant exclusion too, so. So we have a motion and a second to table. Is any other discussion? Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
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 Okay, the next one, Mr. Easto, has to do with section 6.6.3. It states in here that section 6.6.3 is hereby deleted in its entirety and the following substituted in its place. The black sentences on there, they're already in the zoning ordinances. The only thing that's being added is that last sentence where it talks about a travel trailer, recreational vehicle, or tiny house on wheels shall not under any circumstances be considered a dwelling unit and shall not be allowed as a principal or accessory residential structure in any zoning district. Planning and Zoning Commission discussed this, and our vote was 7-0 to recommend approval.
Okay. For those of you here that may have comment on that, it's actually just further defining certain types of domiciles that are not considered a dwelling unit in any zoning district. What it does do also, though, is it removes both the preceding and the following sections of that ordinance that speak to recreational vehicles in Madison County. So that part is not included in this, but it does refer to deleting that. Any comments at all on that? Seeing none, we'll close the public meeting, open special session, and ask for a vote, or a motion rather, a motion as is presented here to delete in its entirety, deleted in its entirety section 6.6.3 and substitute it with the verbiage that you see listed there.
I need to discuss that before we make a motion to continue. We've got some cases in the county now. It's hardship. That we don't need to totally this where a real bona fide hardship case can't reside temporarily in a travel trailer, mobile trailer on somebody's lot, as long as it's properly maintained, sewage-wise and everything else. And there's a case pending in court right now. It's on hold right now, waiting on to see what we do here. And I really think, instead of saying absolutely shall not be done, we need to put hardship in there, on a case-by-case hardship.
And I agree, and I think that would be something that we would decide as a board. They come in front of us, and I'm asking.
Case-by-case? Right, case-by-case hardship.
Now, in the past, though, has that been a function of the planning and zoning, or?
No, it's never, haven't been allowed since I've been here. It's gotten out of control. The only hardship we have is a medical hardship, and it's for a mobile home, not for any type of RV.
Can we be specific like that and make it, because financial, but it's a medical hardship?
We do have a medical hardship in our zoning ordinance.
But this I believe, if we pass this would take that would supersede that, right?
I tell you what, if y'all let the hardship get in there, the judge will take care of the rest of it.
I don't know. We do have on section 8.6, recreational vehicles as a temporary residence. It was put in 2012.
But that's when if you're building a house and you have a permit for a house, you can get a 1-year RV permit, or if you've lost your home, you can get, I think it's a 6-month permit to live on your parents' property. Never have we had one person to come in and apply for that, and we did a big ad in the paper hoping to cover that. Not one person.
They just do it.
They just do it.
It's selective enforcement, and we don't need selective enforcement. I said we let the judge do this on such cases.
So in 8.6, though, is there, does it mention, that mentions hardship, though?
Yeah, it's, section 8.6 is, let's see.
Let's say they don't come in and get the permit.
Right.
But you don't have to.
Yeah, I mean, it's called a temporary housing hardship permit, so, but it doesn't.
I would suggest that needs further definition, and if we want to do anything to that, where that's listed, to specify medical hardship versus, you'll have financial hardship, you're going to have other hardships, and it's an easy go-to place, perhaps. I see that one being a lot harder to justify or validate, whereas a medical, if you have something from a medical
And we
provider.
require that.
We're not talking about somebody just going out here and putting something on the acre lot and
No, I think
we're
it's
talking about
even-
behind somebody's house where.
This even makes a provision that there be an occupant or a primary residence.
Right, this section 8.6, it does not define hardship, but it has a lot of things you have to do, not just come in to get the permit, but a lot of other steps that you have to comply with that it would not lend itself to abuse, I don't think. At least it hasn't so far as I understand it, because you would have to meet so many things just to do it.
But the people that really need it would meet those requirements. You wouldn't just absolutely say there's no way, forget it, don't even ask. That's what I'm trying to get around is let it be there and you can prove that you need it. And then I think the judge take care of the rest of it.
Okay, so now the question comes back to the amendment in front of us, because this is all inclusive here, though. It doesn't make reference or an exclusion for a hardship at all. Is that correct? Am I reading this right?
Correct.
I don't see anything there, so.
It says under, shall not under any circumstance.
Any circumstance.
Right.
So that would repeat section 8.6.
I just want to make sure we're not doing something that's, incongruent here.
And that can be amended on the motion.
So we put this on hold and we get something over
Yeah,
to work.
You could amend that on the motion.
I'll make a motion, somebody help me make it, Mike, or you help me make it.
We just want to make sure the hardships.
I want to get that hardship back. I mean, there's cases out there where we can't sit up here and just dictate somebody's life. And I sat down in court the other day and I know that.
So if this is not to repeal section 8.6, I'm trying to help Mr. Eastco here, what is the intent?
Right. So it doesn't look like you can delete 6.6.3 without doing something to 8.6.
Right.
So, we can do one of two things perhaps. You can either, again, perhaps, you can either that or
It's just the other statute.
Right.
I don't want to speak out of turn for everybody else, but I think we all agree with this.
Well,
Hardship needs to be in there.
I would ask, Linda, if this is tabled, can we present it again and with a well thought out amendment? Right here on the spot, I'm afraid I don't have the preceding portions. I don't know what I'm amending, so I'd rather,
I'd like to see it taken,
right.
some wording in that to protect some people that need protection.
We can fix it, I think. It's just, I would make it very specifically for medical hardship.
I don't think we can make it just for medical hardship. There's a case down there now.
But it's a
Just
real,
table it, and then we can get somewhere and let you see what's going on.
Right. A little earlier.
Mike, would it need to be denied and then come back with a
No, they can just table
tabling?
Because we can bring it back and amend it, right? We'll find a way to work it. We'll work with you, or get you to work with us.
Chairman, you need a motion for it.
We will have to have a motion, it's already on the table. A motion to table, or?
Motion table.
Okay, I'll second that.
I have a second, any discussion? Commissioner Strickland?
Yes.
Yes. We can make this work.
Okay, we're getting the next four we can take up at one time, because they're all, this wording changes. It's items 1, 2, 3, and 4, and it all, deals with transmission towers, just changing basically the word transmission towers.
And allowing it as conditional use in an E2.
Well, that's the next one.
Oh.
That's the next one. It's just, changing wording to transmission towers in different sections of the ordinances. That's all it is. And the, Planning and Zoning Commission voted 7-0 to recommend approval of these, and we took those up as one vote also.
Easier way to do this, is there anybody here that would like to speak against this, the change in the wording for transmission towers What is that? Are we going to the easier fix now? Or? Yeah, I'm just trying to, since you may or may not have this in front of you, it's verbiage and it's actually just supplanting, one term with another.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, there was inconsistent use, and sometimes they were called transmission towers and sometimes telecommunications towers, so we're just choosing to call it transmission towers consistently. That's the change.
Doing housekeeping.
Anybody have any comment one way or the other on that? Seeing none, we'll close the public meeting, open special session, entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yes.
Teresa, okay, Commissioner Huffle?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Item 5.
Okay, the next one has to do with the chart that we used, it's Article 7. It's amended to allowing telecommunication towers to read transmission towers, and it's also to adjust the uses to allow the transmission towers with a conditional use in the columns for A1, A2, and I, and a P provisional in the column for business, and the remaining columns left blank.
The piece permitted. Yeah.
What is that?
Provisional.
Provisional?
It's keeping right.
That's not how I was getting that.
Was that 7-0 to approve?
Yes, it's 7-0 approved. Thank you.
Okay, so again, this particular ordinance is cleaning up the transmission tower language and adding a conditional use, thus negating the requirement to rezone, is that correct?
That's right.
Okay,
So
so
we got that one rezone, we got to go back.
that's we'll have, now, with this, you can go back and and I was a permitted in the column for classification B. Okay, anybody have any comment or any discussion on that? Pretty riveting stuff. Anything? We'll close the public meeting, open the special session, entertain a motion.
So
Second.
I have a motion and a second to amend this portion. Any discussion? Commissioner Pepper?
Yes.
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 One more. Item 1?
I say 2 more.
You see 2 more. No. It's adding a subsection 14.2.4.16, adding that to Article 14, reading as follows. The written analysis shall address each of the zoning amendment criteria set forth in section 14.3.9 hereof. That's illegal. I had to ask questions about that.
I got you.
And it was the Planning and Zoning Commission's vote of 7-0 recommended approval to this be added.
Okay. And this is the portion, if I'm correct, Rhonda, this is the yes, no, maybe analysis. Okay.
Yeah.
Just so we're clear from most of us lay people that look at that, it's we're looking to amend 14.2.4.
That's the impact.
Yeah. Anybody have a comment or feeling on that? We'll close the public meeting, open the special meeting to consider a motion to amend section 14.2.4.16.
So moved.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Actually, is this the one you were talking about? I know, I'm young. I stay up till 2 o'clock anyway. So what I was wondering about was this is the one we talked about software.
Yes.
And maybe some different software. Does it even have to be software? And these things, it does need some kind of software. So we can make a look at that.
It's very expensive. Yeah, that's why it's not.
Any other discussion? The vote will go to Commissioner East.
Yes.
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 And I thank you too for very nice for your health.
He's not getting up again.
Thank you.
Good night, Laura.
Good night, thank you.
We got some more for you.
Man, you did great. You did. Quite impressive.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Good night, folks. Good night. Good night, Linda.
If y'all need me, you know where to find me.
Right.
Yes, ma'am, we do.
Not before in the morning.
All right. At this point, we'll entertain statements and remarks from citizens on agenda. Item 6 through 8. Should anybody desire to speak on this? So the first, hearing nobody come forward, we're going to move on to new business. We have 3 items that fall into this. First is consider approving the award criteria. During one of our work sessions, we actually spoke about this briefly. There has been a list, and it should be included in your information. There's been a list that has been used in the past. We added a few items. The reason, and there's 3 pages here, but really it's the top 2 pages that we need to look at tonight. Considerations for accepting roads, and then considerations for resurfacing or paving roads. And the only reason it's on at this time, though, is as we approach our LMIG application, this also will help in determining, how we approach what projects to do, and like I said, most of this is from an existing list of criteria for considerations, and I'd like to give a vote approving the use of this as this is what the board would use when they consider accepting a road. Some of this is defined or outlined in code already, but some of these things, for instance, review traffic count, number of dwellings, and actually that has been updated, determine number of dwellings or businesses on roads, determine condition of road, extended repair, those types of things, but all those go into a determination, not just to accept a road for maintenance, but how it gets prioritized. Is it going to be at the top of our list? Is it, yeah, we want to get it done, but it's not as pressing as others. We need some system to rack and stack road projects, and again, this would help both the road superintendent so that he knows what information he has to go out and get when we start looking at considerations for either paving, accepting a road for county maintenance. Like I said, there's a 3rd page here that talks about private roads. We'll hold that one for a future discussion, but I want to stick with county maintained, county maintained roads. So, if you see anything on there that merits discussion, or if you don't like it, or if there's something wrong with it or whatever, I'd love to clean this up and at least have this as something that I can work with our road superintendent to bring information to the board when we start our process for application on the LMIG projects.
Motion.
Yes, I would like that.
This is just on the first 2 pages.
Yes, sir. Just the first is the considerations before accepting, and then considerations for resurfacing or paving roads.
My motion would be, Chairman, that we, I don't know if accept or approve the updated list you've given us here for accepting roads.
I have a motion to, I'm trying to figure out the word, to approve or adopt. I think it's adopt. I would make a motion to adopt these as considerations before accepting roads and for paving and resurfacing. I have a second. Now, discussion.
You know, and I maintain too, and this, I know we'd have to amend my motion to do this, but that obtain 100% right-of-way deeds, I still think that needs to be number one on the list. Before we start doing. Well, and they're not, that's what I'm saying, and, you know, I think that should be our first move. Because a lot of people, you know, some people don't want the road.
No,
You know, that kind of thing, you know. Because sometimes you have one or two people, and there's 14 people on the road, one or two people, or someone saying they want it. You really get down to it, start talking to them, they'll put up on it.
Well, and part of the reason for having these other considerations too is you may not even get to that right-of-way consideration if if it's too costly, or if you're in determining the utility of the road, is it a connecting road, is it a dead end, is it a whatever, that may determine whether or not you want to pursue getting all those signatures and things like that.
But do you really want to pursue any dollar spent before having, and like I said, this discussion, so, you know, if I'm out of line here, please let me know. But I don't know if you want to spend any money before you know that the entire road wants to actually.
We'll determine the cost or an estimate of that.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
That.
Okay. Now that makes sense.
And
Before you get everybody excited.
Yes, and, because I know we've had experiences where, you know, with the signatures and things like that, and even more recently, we've seen a case where everybody wanted it done, and when we went to get signatures, we changed our mind. And again, that would have been wasted effort too, so some of the things.
100%, though.
Yeah, well, and that's one thing, and again, that's just one of the, that's one of the considerations, one of the criteria that we would use, but certainly before it gets done, and there might be an isolated case where you don't get all of them, but you get a majority and the decision's made to go ahead and proceed because of safety or whatever. So, any other comments or discussion on that? And if any of you have been driving the road, you notice that they got counters down throughout the county on various roads right now, so we're just trying to collect the data. Got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Ready to vote? Yes. Commissioner Strickland? Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes. Okay. Very good. Next item is, consider purchasing 6 GBI vehicles. We talked about this also in a meeting before, and these 6 vehicles were, and I believe you still have that included in the packet here. Approximately the range you see there from 14 to 24,000. We're estimating or expecting a price in between that. Total cost for these 6 vehicles, late model, they have miles, but they've been maintained. We put eyes on them, driven them. Estimated cost is about $19,000 or $20,000 total for 6 GBI vehicles.
It's my understanding too, Chairman, that talking to the sheriff, that they're leaving everything but the radios inside those vehicles too.
Correct.
So that, the stuff just inside costs, half that. So they're going to leave that in. They're taking the radios out because they reuse those.
And there is no requirement for detailing these, correct, for wording or anything. These are pretty much straight into service. They'll remove the radios from the existing vehicles and put them in these, so no added cost there. This is to be paid for by the remaining monies left in the footwork contract, which, as it stands, is about almost $20,000. So it's a zero-sum expenditure of gain. And it facilitates vehicle swap out. It will also facilitate a work detail vehicle until it drops to it, which was an additional requirement that we alleviated by buying these vehicles. So,
Chairman, I move we purchase 6 GBI.
Second. I have a motion to purchase 6 GBI vehicles with a second. Any further discussion on this? Nope.
Yes.
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 Okay. Last item as far as new business. Consider SPLOST advances for volunteer fire departments. Continuing the conversation we started again at a previous meeting, we're at the midpoint of a 6-year SPLOST collection. It runs through June of 2020. As such, initially there was a projection made on monies that were projected to be collected. At the midpoint, we did a quick calculation and realized that the money has not come in at the rate because of the economy and for any number of other reasons. So collected monies was less. A practice that had been honored in the county to allow volunteer fire departments to purchase equipment on the expectation of SPLOST coming in. I believe the previous board established a 60% advance. And that meant that at that time, and there were 2 fire departments within the very opening months of this SPLOST collection that took advantage. Those advances are paid out of the general fund. They're replaced by SPLOST as they come in. Obviously, if you get 12 different departments taking advances or whatever, when you have it in the general fund, it's less of an issue. When we're tight, which we're snug right now, the thought is maybe we might want to hold off on this until at least the next calendar year, advancing any money, because that would come from the general fund. And we're just trying right now to preserve that money, not denying them money, just asking them to hold off until January or so before they start taking any of the SPLOST again. And it would be a reduced amount total to each fire department anyhow because of the projected. Over the next 3 years, if the economy picks up, that money may just jump right back up there. But until it does, we need to hold that money in general fund as long as we can until we start collecting, So the consideration here would be to hold the expenditures from our general fund and certainly observe the revised 60% numbers for each department. But we're going to ask those that haven't collected, who haven't drawn, to plan accordingly, to wait till next year to take advantage of that. Most of the ones that haven't taken the money have made the decision to wait till the end of the SPLOST to take it in whole, which would be ideal if all of them could do that. But understand some of them had some immediate needs. So for consideration tonight is just a vote to approve. I'll make contact with the various fire departments and let them know the vote that until perhaps January 1st of 2018, we're going to hold SPLOST expenditures to the fire departments, and then we'll resume in January of 2018.
Even the SPLOST that they already have, or just advances?
And I would say right now, even the ones that haven't, and I know that's probably inconsistent with letting the others do it, but I do know from those that haven't taken it that the idea was to hold off anyhow. I would even ask perhaps that if there was a circumstance that they couldn't purchase turnout gear and enter a house, that we'd consider that on a case-by-case basis. But I'm talking about just go out buy a fire truck or to do something like that right now. A large expenditure would probably, the advance on our general fund right now would be problematic. It would be. So I'm just asking, for the temporary halt to the expenditure from SPLOST for the fire departments until January of 2018. Case-by-case emergency comes up, I present it to the board, and it'd be for your consideration if you want to honor that or make do with that.
I make a motion to put that on hold till the first of the year.
Second. I have a motion and second to suspend SPLOST expenditures for fire departments till 2018. Any discussion? Commissioner Peffel?
Yes.
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 All right. Oh, let's see, we do have one more. Or did we decide to hold that, the open records?
No, that's not tonight.
That's
You're
not-
looking at this office there?
Okay, I have an old agenda there. That's my fault.
Any urgent matter?
I just want to ask a question.
Yes, sir.
Moratorium is now,
It is.
Thursday at midnight,
It is.
which is pretty close.
By the vote of the previous session and everything, so any, I skipped roads update, any roads update? Yes, sir. Anybody
Talk to
on
Alan.
that? Any urgent matters? Yes, sir.
Has there been any washouts anywhere that, since all the rains?
Alan has been getting after it. We've had a number of, trees are our biggest issue right now. A lot of trees, soft ground, wet ground. These are not the smaller trees. We're starting to see the big ones coming down too, so, looking forward to getting Georgia Renewable Power Plant up and running. We'll have a place to deposit those trees. Any urgent matter, anything? Statements, remarks from anybody here?
Thank you for all your time, all the
My hands off to you for remaining, so, we appreciate the input too.
Vaccine
Yeah. Any requirements for executive session?
No, sir.
Tonight? Okay, motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I have a motion. Second. Commissioner Eastco?
Yes.
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 Yes. I thought that was a different.